Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 346. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's shaking, bacon?
You sound alive this week.
Yeah, just barely by the skins of my teeth. So,
I mean, you sound very different. Last week you sounded like death. You sound like you this week.
That's good.
You may still feel like shit, but that's no bearing on what I'm talking about.
It's been hanging on for the rest of the week. But I'm all right. I don't have like the convulsing coughing fits, which is nice. However, I went and played football this morning, and that was probably too much too soon. Sort of a bunch of times where I thought I was gonna die for a second. You know, recovering from a chest cold and then going out and running in 45, 46 degree weather. Not smart, but you know.
Given the amount of Taco Bell you consume, I assume there's at least once per week where you think you're about to die.
No. I actually don't eat that much Taco Bell anymore.
Oh.
No.
Lifestyle change. Okay.
Yes. No. But yeah, no. I used to be like that, but now I'm in a lot better shape. And someone at the gym complimented me and said that I'm built like a mini fridge. So I'm gonna take that as a compliment, not as a slight. So, however, running is still not my forte, and running on bad lungs that have been, I've been coughing up gunk for a week. Not good. So,
I really can't figure out if built like a mini fridge is a compliment or like I don't even know what it means.
Yeah, that's what he said. It's because I'm not tall. It's because I'm compact. If I was slimmer, like they say about the Japanese wrestler Ishii, as they say, he's built like a fire hydrant. I don't have that build, but I'm short and squat. So again, I get that one though,
because the fire hydrant is tough. Like it's solid, it's heavy,
a mini fridge is short, squat, and it contains a lot of food. Which again, I'm not going to call anybody a liar that calls me that.
Does a mini fridge contain a lot? I feel like a mini fridge is usually used for drinks rather than food.
Not the one at my work, but
Well, fair enough. Well, because I'm thinking of a mini fridge where you've already got a regular fridge, but you've got a mini fridge somewhere else in the house for convenience sake. It's probably filled with drinks more than it is food.
You put a lot of cold Taco Bell in a mini fridge.
See, you're claiming you don't eat as much Taco Bell, Matt, but your go-to reference is still how much Taco Bell can I fill in something?
No, it is. Those are old habits die hard. But no, I really haven't had Taco Bell. They did me dirty the last time I had them, and it wasn't as good as it had been, so I just stopped going. If we do eat fast food, it's not Taco Bell, but there's been so many mom and pop like dine-in like takeout restaurants that have popped up in my area in the last 3 months that we tend not to eat fast food. We tend to eat takeout more than anything when we don't feel like cooking. So like today I did have a burrito, but it was from a place called El General right over here. Ew. That's brand new. So it's very, very good. Nice and filling. Tad more expensive, but again, doesn't make me feel like garbage, which is fine. So.
Okay. Well, this is a DC Comics podcast, believe it or not.
Not that you could tell.
We talk about DC Comics every week. The books we'll be talking about this week will include Detective Comics 1069.
Nice.
Like, there was a passing thought where will I say it, will I crack the joke, and before I even had time to think about it, Matt already hit the nice. I don't know what that says about me. I know what it says about Matt, but...
It says I have a great sense of humor.
Actually, Comics 1052, which is also kind of a nice number as far as DC goes. It's relevant. And then Batman vs. Robin issue 5, Stargirl, The Lost Children issue 4, Matt read Blue Beetle Graduation Day issue 4, and of course we have The Human Target issue 12 to wrap up that very, very notable series. One of the sort of main events we've been looking forward to over the last year or so. And I was going to do a Patreon book, and then I looked at next week's list and realized that I had even less books to read next week. I thought I'll just do both then, because we'll need more next week. So yeah, that's what's coming up on the show today. So hopefully that is of excitement and you look forward to it, and maybe we'll have some hot spicy takes. Maybe not. Maybe it'll be cold.
I have a hot take for one of the books that we read. It's probably not a hot take coming from me, but it'll be a take nonetheless.
Why have I got a feeling it's something was too Batman, or Batman was too good or powerful or something to that effect? Something in that area, that general gist.
I'm gonna keep it close so we don't guess, but
I'm spot on. That was a direct hit. That wasn't just I sunk your battleship. That was I hit the critical weak point of the Death Star and brought the entire thing down in one fell swoop. That's what that was.
We'll see.
All right, so yeah, that's what's coming up. Not much in the way of news. There's one tiny thing, but we'll get into that. But obviously, you know, we always like to start the show with a fan favorite segment, something that brings joy to the masses and maybe even gets a few tears of happiness from some of the faithful. It certainly gets a few tears from Matt as well.
If that's you, please let me know, because I feel like these are lies. I feel like nobody likes the segment but Pete.
Well, no. There's been vocal support. There's been vocal support. Oh yes. I might even start a new tier on Patreon just to sponsor the ComiXology top 10, just so people can show their undying loyalty to the best segment on the show. But with that said, there's always time for a ComiXology top 10. So yeah, looking at the top 10 books as of right now, because they're sorted by most sold on ComiXology, we have them separated by day. So we do the Tuesday books, which are DC's, and then we'll have a look at the rest of the industry on the Wednesday as well. What's interesting about this past week is that because DC are on the Tuesday these days, and I'm sure this has happened before because it's been a little while since they switched now. It's been like 2 years. But I noticed this week, just something that's a little bit weird, is that because the last day of the month was the Tuesday, DC had its like first week, or sorry, had its last week of the month, its fourth week, the same week that Marvel had its first week of the next month. It's confusing to think about, but just a mildly amusing thing I noticed.
Yeah, it's happened a couple times where like they've come out on like the 30th. Yeah, and then Wednesday's the 1st. So it is quite amusing.
No, it's definitely happened before, because that must happen, on average, like what, once or twice a year, maybe. But anyway, so we'll look at the top 10. So what do you think DC's most selling book was as of right now on ComiXology of the .coms?
I'm gonna guess it's Batman vs. Robin 5.
Nope.
Wow. Okay. Then Stargirl.
Nope.
Dang. Last time I guessed Tech, it was wrong. So I'm gonna go Tech.
Wrong.
Oh my god. All right. Let's just keep this running. Human Target 12.
I love how I would say that on this week's DC list of books, there's 5 main books, and then there's like all the other ones, right? The tie-ins, the weird sort of like miniseries, like DC Ruby, and no disrespect to Blue Beetle, but a smaller title, right? I would say there was 5 main big heavy hitter books. You have said all 4 except the one that was actually number 1.
Right. And it's Action Comics 1052.
It's actually Comics 1052.
Good. I'll even take the personal L so that I can take the 1 spot. So. Yes.
I thought you'd have went with your heart and guessed that first.
No, because I've done that before and I've been completely wrong. So, no, that's good. I'm glad.
No, yeah, it's good. So yeah, Action Comics number 1. Number 2 is Batman vs. Robin, issue 5, which have they solicited like past issue 5, Matt?
I don't think so.
Is this the end of the miniseries?
I think so. I just wish instead of doing these Alpha and Omega Lazarus Planet.
Yeah, why wasn't it just a 7-issue book?
Yeah.
Why wasn't that just issues 5 and 6 and then this was issue 7? I don't understand.
Doesn't make sense. But me neither.
Anyway, so number 3 was Human Target, issue 12. Number 4 was Detective Comics 1069. Number 5 is Stargirl, The Lost Children, issue 4. And then we get to some of the weirder stuff, like the Riddler Year 1 at number 6. We have Tim Drake Robin at number 7. We have DC Ruby at number 8. Number 9 is Blue Beetle Graduation Day. And number 10 is that $10 Shazam Fury of the Gods special where all the stories are co-written by the actors in the movie. So
I don't know how many my shop ordered, but there was a lot of those on the stands when I got there Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't know if you agree with this, but it kind of feels like the movie's set out to die a little bit. It doesn't really feel like they're doing a big marketing push or anything like that.
I get a lot because my I had a friend that had me on their YouTube, whatever that's called, their YouTube Premium, and then they've taken me off. I don't know if they just wised up to it and forgot or whatever, but now I get a lot of ads on YouTube, and I keep getting them for Shazam, but that's the only place I'm seeing them is on YouTube. I'm not seeing them on TV when I watch hockey or anything else. So yeah, kind of feels that way when you're relying on a streaming ad so much. But again, I don't know how much of the market has changed, right?
Yeah, I've just seen very little of it. It kind of feels, because there was even like a thing from the director in this past week saying that Shazam 2 doesn't really contradict anything in the future DC plans, but it'll only get a third one if people go see it. It kind of felt like he knew the writing was on the wall and he was kind of asking people to go see it to save it effectively.
Yeah, and so I responded to that tweet because someone had responded to him, and that led to that was about, so it doesn't matter, so why do I need to go see it? And it was like, well, if the only reason you're going to see movies is because it matters in the grand scheme of things, that's on you. That's not on Warner Brothers or either you want to see Shazam 2 or not, regardless of it factors in or not. So it sounds to me like that guy didn't want to see it that much anyways. So that's a whole completely different conversation.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm not gonna go see it in theaters. So.
Yeah, but that's right. So, but that it has nothing to do with you wanting to see it or not. It has nothing to do with it tying into the new James Gunn stuff. So,
no, I mean it does kind of feel like these next 4 movies coming out are kind of in this weird this weird place where it feels like none of them will probably be continued in any way because this reset's coming, and so there is kind of a weird thing connected to that, but it isn't quite just because it doesn't matter to the if it was just the Batman's not mattering to anything, that doesn't matter.
Exactly. So you either want to see the Batman Chapter 2 or you don't. And that person probably does. So they were just looking to being really crappy kinds of fans. And I, good on Sandberg for commenting. And if I have time, I plan on seeing Shazam. But I'm not going out of my way. So I'm gonna try to catch up on Cocaine Bear today because I was so sick last weekend I didn't make it.
I'm so glad you said beer at the end of that sentence.
Yeah. No stimulants for me, thank you. Caffeine's enough. But talk about heart exploding. But yeah, I mean it's either that or Creed, which that one snuck up on me. Creed
it's
3.
getting good reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut might be a hit
with Jonathan Majors, who's actor du jour.
Do you know what? I really like Jonathan Majors because I loved him on Lovecraft Country, and I like that the universe knew I didn't care about more Marvel movies, so it gave me another movie with he's also playing a villain. I appreciate that in the grand scheme of things. Thank you, universe.
Yeah. That said, he's very good in Ant-Man and Wasp. But again, he's Jonathan Majors. If he's gonna show up and be good, and I don't want to spoil anything, but if you know about Kang, you know that Jonathan Majors is kind of a perfect character, not a character actor. He's an actor that's capable of playing that character in its many different, instances, if you will. So
I'm going to hit you with a really kind of lame joke that only a portion of our audience are going to get.
If you say that's got to be Kang.
I'm going to say that's got to be Kang.
Do you know how much I whispered to that to Ashley when we were in the theater, and I got the
first time he walks out of the movie, that's gotta be Kang.
I also me yelling that while watching Loki, also. So yes, But you have to yell it like Vince McMahon, or else it doesn't.
Oh, of course, yes. This is a wrestling reference for everyone who doesn't get it. But those of you who were watching wrestling in 1997, we'll get a chuckle out of it.
What was that? It was a Cell match, but it wasn't the Cell, right? It was Survivor Series.
No, it was the Cell match. It was Bad Blood.
Bad Blood. That's what I was trying to figure out which pay-per-view it was on.
Yeah, it was a Cell. He comes out and rips the door off.
That's right.
Yeah, McMahon's yelling, "That's gotta be Kane!
That's gotta be Kane!" Oh my god.
Ah, dear. I mean, it's a shame Kane in real life's a shithead, but you know.
100%.
But you know, 1997, 1998, fun memories of those 2 years.
You know, it's like this is the guy that set his house on fire and killed his parents is a lot more sympathetic than Glenn Jacobs.
I know this character's a monster, but he's still more likable than the real person. Anywho, Wednesday's comics top 10. So any guesses for the rest of the industry, man?
So I'm looking and I don't see, as of right now, I don't see any of the specials. However, seeing that this was a book that Tim picked up, I'm gonna guess that Hallows Eve #1 for Marvel. No.
No, I was scanning to find it. It's number 11.
Yes. Gotcha. No, so I saw Tim picked up Do a Powerbomb, which I'm very proud of him for doing because that's one of my favorite books of last year. And then I also saw this on there, so I was like, maybe if Tim's going out of his way to buy it, but we all know why he bought it. It's because of the title. It's a new Marvel character that gets powers from Halloween masks. Very much a Tim concept. So all right, so. Being that I don't see any other specials out, and as a cursory glance, I'm going to go to the first X book I see, and that's X-Force 38.
Nope.
Oh, dang. I'm not good at this today. Is it Venom?
No.
Yo, all right. I'm tapping on this one.
Well, you were kind of half right with your logic. It is an X book. It is Rogue and Gambit issue 1.
Where the hell is that?
Down
That's
below.
like 4 rows down on League of Comic Geeks.
Yeah, Rogue and Gambit. Honestly, I even realized it was a Marvel book at first, just because the cover looks very indie.
It does.
Just because, I don't know, the colourful logo, I guess. But actually, do you know what it is? It's because the Marvel logo is black and white instead of red, so the little red box didn't jump out to me.
It doesn't strike. It looks like an IDW book or something.
Yeah. Number 2 is X-Force, issue 38, which is Percy writing just now. Number 3 is a book I was not familiar with, but because it's number 1 by Geoff Lemire, I'm definitely interested, and that is Phantom Road issue 1 from Image Comics. So
that cover looks like a 70s exploitation movie.
I'd maybe be tempted to go read that.
Here I'll give you the beat real quick. It says Dom is a long haul trucker attempting to stay ahead of his tragic past. When he stops one night to assist Birdie, who has been in a massive car crash, they pull an artifact from the wreckage that throws their lives into 5th gear. So, seems like a very Lemire concept.
Yeah. The problem is, though, is when it comes to Image books, if I try and read them in single issues, I always only get a few in, and then I'm like, nah, I'll just...
Trade.
Because the problem is that I find them hard to remember month to month versus superhero stuff for whatever reason, so it's they read better in trade for me. But
true. I get that.
But yeah, so that's Phantom Road issue 1. Number 4 is Spider-Man issue 6. This is the Dan Slott one.
There's a lot of Spider-Man on that cover.
There's a lot of Spider-Man. Maybe some Spider Ladies, by the looks of it.
Yeah.
Number 5 is Star Wars Hidden Empire. Number 6 is Cosmic Ghost Rider.
Sure. Still a thing?
Is it a new? That's maybe an issue 1, to be honest. I don't remember seeing it recently.
All I see is Ghost Rider. I'm looking for
Cosmic Ghost Rider issue 105 by Stephanie Phillips. Yep. So.
Wow.
Number 7 is Captain America: Sentinel of Liberty. Number 8 is Star Wars issue 32. Number 9 is Venom 17. And number 10 is Star Wars: The High Republic. 3 Star Wars books in the top 10.
Yeah?
Marvel pumping those out this week. So, fair enough.
Well, that's not even... Yeah, there's another... The Star Wars, there's a Mandalorian, there's a Han and Chewie book. And these are stuff that came out this week. So, hooey.
Boom put out a Buffy special issue. But I'm not keeping up to date with what's going on with the Buffy comics right now. But
there's a story that I wanted to share with you, and I forgot. until just now. But there was this, he came across a TikTok, and it was this kid go, "Hey, Dad, you want to tell how Buffy the Vampire Slayer saved
I
life?"
saw this. Yes,
You saw that one?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, the dad who refused to go into the storm cellar when the tornado was coming because he wanted to watch the Buffy series finale, and because he did so, he was able to like free his family who got trapped in their storm cellar when a tree fell on the door.
Yeah.
So it saved their lives that he refused to go to safety and instead went to watch Buffy.
I said that to my friend Jared, who lives in Oklahoma, and I said, "I can tell you these people are from Oklahoma without knowing it." And I sent it to him, and he goes, "Oh, dude, 100%. That looks like my Uncle Rick." So, but yes, I immediately thought of you, not seeking shelter during a storm because Buffy was on.
I mean, how bad could the storm have been? His TV signal was still fine.
Yeah. So I asked Jared about that because they recently had a watcher warning. And he goes, we're all fine. We had like 90-mile-an-hour winds. And I was like, what? And yeah, they don't go to the storm cellar for 90-mile-an-hour winds. So who knows how much this guy was? But he finished Buffy. He said he watched Angel, and then he came to check out the family.
I feel like I can like winds feel strong to me when they hit 20 miles per hour. I can't imagine what 90 feels like.
Yeah, for sure, dude. We had 50 to 60 here last week, and man, it was rough times. It felt like my house was twisting. So I can't imagine what a 90 would feel like. So crazy times. Yeah, luckily you're up in hilly country. You don't have to worry about that type of stuff. You just have a lot of rain and snow.
No, don't even have a lot of snow, to be honest. It only snows like once or twice a year. Just a lot of rain. Rain, and it's mildly cold.
Yeah.
In the winter, anyway. But yeah, that's the ComiXology top 10. We went to a couple of tangents along the way, but
as one does.
That's what's going on with that. The only bit of news this week is not much, but oh, sorry, I got distracted by a different headline there.
Yeah, no kidding. I was waiting for the rest of that to hit.
Yeah, sorry. No, I got distracted by another headline on Deadline here when I clicked on it. So they've cast Clancy Brown in the Penguin TV show that's coming up as Salvatore Maroni.
Oh, that's a good casting.
Yeah, I like Clancy. Obviously, he's no stranger to DC because he was the voice of Lex Luthor, right? And the Superman animated series.
He's done other voices too, I believe. He's just one of those guys that's a veteran voice actor.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he's done a bunch of the animated movies as different characters. But
it's mostly he's Lex, but also he's the Kurgan, right, from Highlander. He's this big physical presence, which I feel is a new take on Sal Maroni, because Sal's always to me seeming like one of those kind of slimy type mob characters.
Yeah, that's fair. I imagine though his bigger presence is diminished a little bit because he's gotten older, right? So I don't know if they're going to go for imposing as much with him.
Yeah. But I do feel like that he feels like a guy that could have been the head of a squad or something. You know what I mean? So which I like. It gives a different vibe to Sal. So should be a lot of good. I like Clancy Brown as an actor.
Yeah, I don't know what I saw him in first. I definitely remember him in Lost. I mean, it's not a big role in Lost. He's only in a couple of episodes, but I remember finding him quite memorable in that. And I've seen him pop up in a bunch of things over the years. He's got a very distinct voice, so he kind of sticks out whenever he does pop up. But yeah, cool. So yeah, that's cool. It. That's all there is news wise this week. It is a quiet week.
I'm glad that Penguin series is still happening though, because. Yeah, it's probably I need to rewatch the Batman, but the Penguin character definitely sticks out a lot. So I'm excited to see more of that.
Yeah, no, it should be interesting. It's kind of it's funny how obviously the Batman's not connecting to the greater movie universe it's about to be built, but it's getting its own little TV spin-off, maybe even two. It was because there's the GCPD one as well. So. Well, it was a GCP. I think it's an Arkham show. Yeah, I think
it's an Arkham show now, but it did start as the Commissioner Gordon show.
It's hard to keep track of these things. So it is interesting that the Matt Reeves Batman universe is going to have its own extra little bits and pieces tacked onto it. Although I suspect it'll stay within Batman. It'll never go outside into other corners. It'll always just be other Batman side characters that are in these things.
You know, it'd be cool though if they did something like they bring in a Maggie Sawyer for like an episode. from Metropolis, you know, but don't, you know, she worked in special crimes or whatever, and she's there on, you know, they're on assignment or something. I think that'd be cool. But I don't think they're ever going to go bigger scheme or bigger, you know.
Yeah, I don't think they're ever going to introduce any other superheroes or anything. I think it's only just going to be like people from Gotham and
it would feel like a different world, right? Because it is very grounded. Not that you can't do superheroes,
kinda,
but you know,
yeah,
like I could see them doing like some JSA kind of send up to like Wildcat, like they bring up Ted or something, but you know, who fought in World War II. But I can't see them doing like the Flash, Green Lantern.
I think it's how you just keep the two, because they're going to have a separate Batman that's in the universe, and that's how you keep them distinct, is that one is in a world with no superheroes and no superpowers, the other one is in the world with everything else.
Yeah.
So it makes some amount of sense, I guess. So I won't talk about this too much because I did a review that'll be going out on Patreon like next month, I want to say.
Okay.
But we're doing video game adaptation season on the collector's cut next month, and so we started recording those, and we did, for the bonus episode, we did Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li, which has a small-ish, well, actually has several DC connections in a way, because you've got Kristen Crook from Smallville in the lead role. Bison is played by Neil McDonough, who was on Arrow as Damien Dark, and then not only that, Chris Klein, who played,
he was also on, he was Cicada.
I was trying to remember what his name was.
I remember the knife. That's what this was.
All I can hear in my head when is every meta will die. Yeah, that's all I can think of. It is laughably bad, despicably so. Kristen Crook was never destined to be a leading actress. No. I'll tell you that right now. Dreadful.
Yes,
occasionally funny because it was so bad, but mostly just dreadful.
Yeah, I remember watching it once. I got it from the video store, and I remember watching it being like, what is this? Like, it's not as fun to watch as the Jean-Claude Van Damme Street Fighter.
Oh, the 94 movie is a masterpiece compared to The Legend of Chun-Li. Masterpiece.
Yep.
I mean, you replace Ming-Na Wen as Chun-Li with Kristen Crook. Like, that is like the biggest downgrade like ever.
Sure.
But say what you want about the 94 movie. Like, they had costumes, you know? You had Raul Julia as Bison. Like, it's not a good movie, but at least it's going for the fun part of it.
Yeah, I watched it probably 10 years ago at this point, and just thoroughly entertained. I hadn't watched it since I was a kid. And I'm like, yeah, it's not a good movie. I would never say that, but entertaining and good are you know, two different things. So
I mean, Bison just wears a business suit in Legend of Chun-Li. It's like a shame to be a video game movie.
Yeah.
It's trying to avoid doing anything that reminds you of the video game at all costs.
I remember Chris Klein being in there, but I forgot about Neil McDonough, because he was all over those mid-2000s as the, you know, always the bad guy.
That was the thing. I was surprised of how old it was technically, because I for some reason I thought it was like more like 2013, 2014, but it was
2007 or 8, right?
No, 2009 is when it came out.
Oh,
but that was earlier than I thought. I thought it was much more recent than that. So I was like, I think that's part of just like getting a little bit older into my mid-30s here, is that I'm occasionally surprised how long it's been since certain things. Pretty much anything in the mid-2000s, like, I'm shocked to realize is like hitting 16, 17 years old at this point, and I'm like, no, what the hell? Where did all the time go? But, yeah. So, yeah.
What other movies are you covering on this video game? Unless that's something to be revealed over time.
No, it's relatively common knowledge. So, we did the Street Fighter movie, the first one. We're doing Super Mario Brothers 93.
That was my question.
We'll be doing the new animated Super Mario Brothers. So it'll all come out week to week to week. We'll have recorded the rest of the episodes long before we record that one, though, because we can't obviously do that until it's out in theaters. And then we had a vote for the last movie, which ended up being Uncharted, which I'm not looking forward to watching, if I'm perfectly honest.
Look, if it means anything to from someone that hasn't played the game, the movie was all right. You know, And that's
It's
coming from
Mark
me. That loves
Wahlberg,
adventure
though.
stuff. Yeah, but Tom Holland also is very charismatic, which I don't know. I don't know anything about Drake as a character, but it was pretty all right. Like, it wasn't great. I'm glad I didn't go to the movie theater to see it, but watching it on Netflix on an afternoon, pretty good.
I'm going to hate it. I know I'm going to
Oh,
hate
you probably will. You probably will.
I love those characters. It's baffling to me.
Did you guys already cover the last Tomb Raider? Is that why you're not covering that one?
No, that's just because there's 3 of those, so that can be its own trilogy effectively at some point.
Gotcha.
So, we really wanted to do 4, we weren't doing like a huge, long season.
Gotcha.
We're just wrapping up, but while I'm plugging, by the time this goes out, the last episode of live action Ninja Turtles season will have wrapped up.
Mm-hmm.
So I had never watched the 2 Bay Turtles movies, so plenty of thoughts on those in those episodes.
Yep.
So, although the Bay Turtles, the first one actually is directed by someone much worse than Michael Bay. No, everyone always forgets that, but the director of Darkness Falls is the one behind that.
Yes.
And then we're doing the John Wick movies after that. That's starting next week. So.
Oh man, I'm so excited for 4.
I'm a little tepid because I think some of 3 was not good, and I'm a little concerned that 4 is almost 3 hours long.
I'm concerned about that too, but I thoroughly enjoyed 2 for opening up the whole world.
Oh, so 2's the best one. 2's easily the best one.
So hopefully this is more of 2 than 3. So
I don't know. The trailer's got him in the desert at one point, and I hated that stuff.
I know. I got a little bit of PTSD from that desert stuff. But yes, the thing I love about 3 though is he uses a horse to murder somebody. So that's great.
I mean, no, the first half hour of 3 and the last half hour of 3 are pretty solid. But the middle hour is pretty rough.
I'm saying that's what I remember the most from that is him slapping the horse and it kicking a dude's head off. So, but yeah, so that comes out later in the month. So I'm excited. It went from like being no movies I was excited about to like a whole bunch in a row. I got the new Scream next week that I'm excited for.
There's a lot of movies out over the next month. Mm-hmm. Actually, just while I'm plugging Collector's Cut, I'm specifically plugging the Turtles season. The bonus episode on Patreon that we did for the Turtles movies was the Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated movie. So some DC related stuff there. If you happen to be a patron just for this show and didn't realize there was a review of a Batman animated movie up there, go and have a look. But yeah, anyway. I don't know what started that. That's
Comics.
No, I wanted to tell you about Legend of Chun-Li. That's what it was.
That's right.
And Kristen Crook's like.
Clancy Brown led to Kristen Crook, which might be the first time that sentence has been said.
So she's got this thing where she's like getting mad, like that people are being mugged, and she wants to be a vigilante, and she does this like angry, I want to do something face, and it's just like.
That's why I haven't gone back to watch Smallville, because I hated Lana back then, and I know through adult eyes now that is going to be 10 times worse. So my brother started watching the first season, and he had to tap out after about 8 episodes, and he's like, "Yeah, man, it does not hold up." He said, "That's why I haven't gone back."
Yeah, me and Connor a few years ago now watched and reviewed every episode in season 1, and it was kind of fun, but only from we're going to sit and take the piss out of this kind of way. Yeah. Not because any of it was really particularly good. Yeah. So.
But yes, in the Always Sunny front, I've made it to the episode where Roddy Piper shows up. So that was exciting.
Is that the one where Frank's like doing wrestling?
He's the trash man, and he starts eating trash. And I didn't finish the episode because I started to fall asleep on the couch. So I have to go back and finish it. But yeah, seeing Piper on there, after he's been gone for so long now, made me feel weirdly nostalgic. And like I didn't grow up watching Piper or whatever, but just knowing him as a character from watching WCW as a kid, being the first wrestling show I ever went to was Halloween Havoc. That was him versus Hogan in the cage. It made me feel weird. Like why am I getting wistful over this man that I've never met? But yeah. Also, big guy doesn't look big in the wrestling ring, but you put him next to normal people,
Oh
like the
yeah.
cast of Always Sunny, and he's like a flipping.
Oh, Mick
He's like
Foley's
a
the
brick
same.
wall.
Mick Foley doesn't look like a tall
Yeah.
guy when he's in a wrestling ring
Yeah.
with other wrestlers, but as soon as you see him
Yeah.
next to normal people, you're like, oh shit, he's like 6'5".
Yeah, he's a big dude. So yeah, seeing Piper just tower over Mac, I'm just like, oh my god. And like I knew Charlie Day was on the shorter side, but he looks diminutive compared to Piper. So yeah, I'm excited for that. But yes, I can't believe it's taking me this long to get into Always Sunny. So
Have you got to Dayman versus Nightman yet? Is that been a thing?
yeah, we had the
Okay.
whole production
Okay.
of the stage show.
You'll probably get
Um,
ahead of me, so I've only watched the first 7 seasons.
Oh yeah, we're on 5 right now. So
And it's been going on so long now, there's actually more of it that I've not seen that I have
Right.
seen at this point.
yeah. So and my brother says that like because he says that he's gonna try to track down the Lethal Weapon episodes because those aren't available in streaming for reasons. But he says those are like the best ones because they're so funny. But I don't know what seasons those came up in, but he's insisting upon it. So,
This
is Always Sunny is a show that he watches to go to bed because he's seen all the seasons numerous times. So, yeah. But, like everyone else has been telling me to watch him for a while, and, my stubborn self, 2023 decided to be the year finally.
That show's been going so long that the first several seasons are in 4x3.
Yeah.
That's how long that show's been going at this point. As Matt's got an intruder in the house.
Yeah, no, I think she's just barking at the dog or at the cat. Yeah. They had to go get the groom today, so they're not very happy. And she looks like my fluffy dog starting stuff with the cat because she has a death wish. So, but yes.
All right, well, let's get into the comics then, shall we? We got some interesting ones to talk about. We'll start with Detective Comics 1069. Ram V writing with a trio of artists on this issue. We got Dexter, Steffano, Raffaele, and Miguel Mendonca. So,
yeah. I will feel that the art is pretty balanced throughout. Like it's not that it's done like per story, but it does meld. All the styles kind of meld together pretty well. So it wasn't very distracting for me, despite having 3.
Yeah, it's kind of because I was like, I went into this issue not really remembering exactly where we left off last time, and I was like, oh yeah, Ten-Eyed Man, that's right. Two-Face brought Batman to the Ten-Eyed Man, and I will say I was a little underwhelmed by what that turned into being. It was just kind of like a a 2-page spread where Ten-Eyed Man just kind of cryptically looks with one eye towards different things. So one eye sees the boy crying, one eye sees the demonic bat, one eye sees a man who thinks he's a city. It was like, let's just do some cryptic analysis of Batman through the Ten-Eyed Man's lens.
Right. But what made that work for me was Harvey being like, dude, you're weird. Get out of here. Like just having this whole thing, which I feel like under a different writer, we would have had to take his, this mystical, we're dealing with demons and stuff, is we should take Ten-Eyed Man seriously. And then to have Harvey just be like, all right, well, what are you doing, weirdo?
Not just that, he threatens to shoot him if he doesn't shut up.
Right.
So, and then he makes it clear to Batman that Harvey's told him who he is. He calls him Bruce a couple times, and basically says he'll come after everyone he cares about if he tries to not even come after him necessarily, just if he tries to ever separate
Fix him.
Two-Face from Harvey. If he ever tries to get rid of the Two-Face persona, he'll retaliate. So don't let my mild negativity of that opening stuff cloud the rest of the issue, because I do actually think the rest of the issue has some great stuff in it. And
I love that with Harvey though, because we've gotten so many of the stories of Bruce being like, the good man's still in there, we can get him out. So I do like this is Ram V throwing the gauntlet down to editorial or other writers and being like, look, he knows who Bruce is, and let's stop trying to quote fix Two-Face. Let's just let this run out and play with that idea of Harvey versus Two-Face. Let them coexist, and I like that a lot in the meta sense.
So Batman obviously flees We see later on that the Organs are here. They're tracking Batman down. They know he was here. They know there was a fight. He couldn't be far. All that stuff. Gordon's looking for Batman because no one's seen him in a couple of days, and he's getting worried. He's on the phone to Barbara, and then Batman just shows up at his place. He comes back here for respite, basically, to get away from everything. Well, the Organs are plotting their domination of Gotham. Arzen's getting very testy about it. He's like, we're going to, build our army all throughout the city. We're going to replace the buildings with our own structures throughout the city to sort of slowly take it over, basically kind of consume it. And, like...
Well, and again, this is where I like that issue from the annual that, that there's something about Gotham that they're trying to stamp out, and by building their own buildings and putting their own people there, that's the only way they'll be able to fully get control. And it's kind of this colonial sense, right?
Yeah.
Like, and just the idea too, like, these buildings are going up so fast. Like, all I could think of was like, well, they can't be sturdy, Like, I know the Organs have a lot of money.
That's what your mind was going to, the structural integrity of some of these buildings.
Yeah, because, like, I don't know. I feel like there's commentary on that of like this, these people that come into these neighborhoods and they don't, they just care about turning them around to making them look nice. Like they don't actually care about changing the neighborhood. They just do it superficially. And that's kind of, I feel like, what the Organs are thinking that they're doing.
You may be onto something, but I just kind of read it as comic book speedy uppiness.
Well, that probably serves both, right? Yeah. But like, I feel like with Ram V and what he said in Swamp Thing, it's not too far off.
Okay.
So,
well, the other thing here though that's interesting is talking about Batman as if he's addicted to the city and that he will come to them. All they have to do is wait because he's addicted to saving the city. He's addicted to being this persona, in the city. Or even if I thought about Gotham being cut off from her addiction to the weirdos and to Batman. So it's kind of an interesting idea. They're talking about curing the city as if it's actually got
a sickness.
Like an actual literal sickness. Which
goes back to that annual that this thing has always been going on, and it's been keeping the Organs away. But now this is their time to strike. And Batman's weak right now. They're the Dark Knight, if you will. So this is their time. Which again, when you look back at the 10-Eyed Man and what he was saying about, the boy crying out and then the man that thinks he's a city, it's all of that stuff that makes Batman, right? And this is like the Organs trying to break away from that. And I think they'll find out that Gotham doesn't go down easy.
Well, I think it's more in depth than that. I think it's tackling this idea that they're viewing these elements as a sickness, and what they're not seeing is that a character like Batman is kind of the strength that's formed out of hardship, right? It's just, something bad happened and it created this thing as a way to survive. So if you look at it from a city perspective, it's almost like if the city is like a living entity, right? And the people and the buildings and the roads are all like its body, then like Batman's the antibody that was created to fight back against.
He's part of that immune system.
Yeah. So it's an interesting way of looking at it, I suppose. We cut to Montoya, who's being very conflicted about everything that's going on. She the guy's telling her, hey, like, crime's down, like things are getting better, but she's like, nah, but there's something not quite right about it. There's something fishy about all this. To the point where she's not trusting that the Organs are doing something that's good for everyone, that they're building this new, because this other cop brings up that the building that's been built over Arkham's old grounds is this new shiny building full of glass windows. It's a bright, sunny thing. It's the opposite of Gotham.
It's opposite of Gotham, right? Which again, it feels like it's like when you get sick, right? It's that lead point. It's the point of entry. It's not right. I also like that Montoya goes to her desk, right? And what do we see in there?
We see her question outfit. She's considering doing all. Well, I think this fits back into what we were just saying about Batman being an antibody. This cop saying to Montoya that if you don't start to embrace the good things that are changing, you won't be in this job very long. And she says, you know, is that a threat? And he's like, no, it's just a fact. But I think this is this idea of like, when weirder things come to threaten Gotham, one of the things that Montoya does is become the question. That's something that's now part of her character. So the idea that she even contemplates and just looks, I mean, maybe she'll put it on, maybe she won't. The fact that Ram V's introduced, it makes me think she probably will at some point.
Yeah.
But, you know, the fact that she's even considering that is this idea that, yeah, Gotham does have this, like, resistance to these bigger forces. That said, though, favorite part of the issue is after this. It's
of course
Gordon with Batman. And they're doing this thing where it makes me think of an episode of Mr. Robot. It also makes me think of the end of Paris, Texas. But so Gordon's like sitting with his back against the door. On one side, Batman's in, I assume, the bathroom or whatever, and he's sitting against the door on the other side. And they're just having a conversation. Batman's unmasked, but obviously they're in different rooms. And Gordon's talking about, hey, you know, I patched you up and, you know, I helped you. But, you know, you had a lot of wounds. Like, this must be the closest you've ever been to the edge. This is, you know, how many times have you almost died? How many times have you been on the brink of absolute disaster? And he's like, well, it's not too much for the Batman. You know, I can do it. And he's like, yeah, that's the myth, but what about the man? And so one of the things I love here in the art, before I even get to my favorite moment, is when Gordon's sort of making this little speech about how everything that he's lost in this city, his marriage, his kids, everything, like, what is it taken from you? Like, all these things you've been doing for the city all these years, you must have lost stuff. What has it done to your body? What's it done to your life? And I loved it when he says, you know, your soul, or what does it do to a soul? That's where you get the shot of the Barbatos looking demon that's like, it's actually in the background of the whole page, like behind the panels, but the actual key part of the face is in the empty gap of where one of the panels would be, just as he says the word soul. And I thought that was quite interesting, the idea that instead, I mean, obviously you literally, well, depending on how you feel about what a soul is, I suppose, but like, it's not so much that he literally doesn't have a soul, but it's more the idea that like there's this kind of like unforgiving creature that's there instead, and that's kind of how the Organs see him. So it'll be interesting to see if this is kind of like a story about Batman coming to self-realize kind of who he is in his place, that, you know, he's not just a demon, he is a person. Obviously he does do all these things, but there's more to him than just that, whereas all the Organs see is this, you know, I won't say creature, but this you know, entity, this demon, this thing,
and they're going around and they're making people their demons, and it's almost like he's this one that they can't control, because Barbados is this this cosmic entity almost, and it's this, and it's not just, I'm not reading it as Barbados, right, as, you know, from Dark Crisis and all this other stuff. I'm reading it that not Dark Crisis, Death Metal, from Death Metal, is like, that is Bruce's, like, the will of Gotham that Bruce believes in, right, is that he's doing stuff for the betterment of the city, and that's his constant drive.
He sees that as a giant bat because he's Batman.
Right, exactly. And so, you know, and to other people that's a problem, but to Bruce, that's, you know, that's him. Yes, Father, I'll become the bat. Right, that's him talking to the city, and, you know, all the other stuff 10 Man was talking about at the beginning. And, you know, he's a man of many faces. He's not just Bruce Wayne and Batman, right?
Well, here's my favorite part of the whole scene is we get to a page after that soul comment where we're just on Gordon's side of the door or the wall, and he says, Barbara, you need to go talk to Barbara because she knows some stuff, whatever. But then he talks about, you know, I'm just worried, as he's drinking his booze, he's like, I'm worried that, you know, no one's looking out for the man behind the mask. You know, someone should be looking out for you. And he goes, and we get a sort of closer, he goes in closer to his face as he says, you hear me, Batman? And what's so beautiful about this is that I think the audience is going to think the same things that Gordon's about to say, which is, oh, he's Batmaned away, because that's what he always does. He always leaves the scene, you know, as Jim's still talking, and it's like a fun little moment, right? And then he says, you're not even there, are you? I'm just, you know, an old man talking to himself. And then you turn the page, and Batman's standing there listening. He just doesn't respond. And then, you know, he quietly puts on his cowl and leaves. I thought that was a beautiful moment. Like, the friendship between Batman and Gordon is always like something that's been endearing about Batman as a character. And I think this like sort of just quiet like moment of him listening to what Gordon's saying but not responding, and Gordon just thinking, oh, he's disappeared like he always does. I found that actually quite touching.
Yeah, well, because it's just that he is there, just like Gordon's always there for him, right? And like why he still plays this mysterious part.
Well, even that,
Batman
even this symbolism in the scene of he's got his cowl down as he's listening to him, but then he puts on the cowl and becomes Batman again to leave. So once again, he's hearing what he's saying, but he immediately just sort of hides again behind the cowl, and Gordon's saying, "Don't forget about the man under the mask," and Batman has this moment of contemplation, and he looks like he's listening to him, but then he still chooses because he feels he has to. He has to go be Batman to save the city because that's who he is. That's who he's always been. But I don't know. I just thought it was quite touching. I thought it was really well done with the 2 pages where one's just on Gordon's side of the wall, then the other one's on Batman's side as he's leaving. It was my favorite moment of the book for sure.
It's up there with the I never said thank you, and you never have to. I feel like that's one of those moments there. So and it's nice because Gordon's not part of the police force anymore, right? Like he's an independent citizen, yet he still is doing what's right, and he feels that that's assisting Batman when he needs to, give him a place to crash right now, and just talking to him because we don't have Alfred, but not that Gordon knows all this, right? But this is a very vulnerable Bruce. It's been since Ram V has taken over. Yeah. So it's nice that Bruce has this person that is looking out for him, looking for the person in the suit.
Well, I think that's the thing is that Gordon doesn't know that Batman's lost someone that was Alfred was the one who was there for the guy behind the mask, and Gordon doesn't know that he's lost that person in his life. But from our perspective, we understand why Batman is going to Gordon more than he maybe did before because he's the closest thing he has to an Alfred right now is Gordon.
Right.
And who knows? I'm not saying that he should reveal his identity and he can become more of a full-time Alfred type character, but it wouldn't be the weirdest step forward if they did pull that move off. I'd understand the logic to it, and he's not like you say, he's not commissioner anymore. Right. If he did learn, he already knows who Barbara is. If he did learn that Bruce was Batman, and maybe learned that he needs someone like this in his life and that he could fill that role. I'm not saying they should do it, but it wouldn't bug me. I'd understand it. It would make sense.
It's because one of the things that it's earned. It's been this relationship over time, and then especially here, the way that Ram V's been writing Gordon, just the fact when he pulled him out of the river, and he kept the cowl on until he could rehabilitate.
I mean, I'm not saying he's building to it, but if we look back later on and we realize this was all building to Batman unmasking to Gordon and Gordon kind of becoming the new Alfred for him, I would say the seeds are there for it. I'm not saying that I'm putting money on it, but it could be there.
But I just like it though because it's one of those things that shows respect. That Gordon, even though he could, find out who Batman is, I don't think he cares, because whoever the man Batman is, that's who Gordon works with. It doesn't change anything, mask or not.
Oh, of course, yeah. I don't think he does care.
And I like that. I like that with Gordon.
It's just a logical thing that if he's going to become the new Alfred, effectively, he would just naturally have to know. But he doesn't care. It never mattered to him before. It shouldn't matter now. Although I'm sure there will be a few things that click in it. He's like, some things make sense all of a sudden. Babs has got info for Batman. She's talking about how she's looking at the lines beneath the city and how where Freeze was hiding, the fact that Freeze and the werewolf and Batman all ended up in the same place at the same time, and basically says she sent Cass down to investigate. So we get Cass going full ninja, crawling, Spider-Man style across the ceiling. And we see that the Argums are kidnapping the, mostly the poor, the homeless, the delinquents, and notably amongst them we see Shoes. Not surprising, this is a thing writers do. Shoes was a character that Ram V was writing in Catwoman. It makes sense that he's dipping into some of the same characters again. The only other complaint I'll have about the issue, because I love a lot of what's in this. Everything with Batman and Gordon was great. I loved the Montoya scene. I love some of the Two-Face stuff. I like seeing Shoes again. But I will say that the ending did feel quite abrupt because it cuts down here. We see Shoes running away and making her escape, and then the cliffhanger is just that Grundy's down in the tunnels. She runs into him.
Yeah.
So, and he's probably going to end up bashing up a bunch of the Orgum soldiers, which
The
that's cool.
Asmers, yeah. Which I did like that scene early on too. I think it's early on of them kidnapping that one guy, right, and forcing him to become one of their demons. And I thought that was super creepy.
Yeah, that's the same scene where Arzin goes on his speech about going over Gotham. Yeah,
but it's super creepy, and it just and so to see shoes and they're rounding up all these people off the streets, and of course one of Catwoman's strays would be in that roundup, right? So her being introduced into this and adding just another player to Batman's side.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I think is nice. Yeah. Also, I wonder how the grand scheme of Gotham is, because that Grundy's I don't know exactly when Grundy started, but he's inexorably tied to older Gotham and Slaughter Swamp. So I wonder how much of that's going to play into the Asmers and him.
That's a good point. Maybe that's something they'll have to contend with.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Yeah. No, I think it's a really good issue. I just thought a little bit of the like the 10-eyed man stuff at the start. I wasn't in love with, and then I thought it ended a bit abruptly. But like other than that, like I really loved the issue.
Yeah.
I thought the scenes with Batman and Gordon were exceptional, and I think one of my favorite things that this book has done, and I mean Detective by Ram V, is just how it's been handling the character of Two-Face and how it's been handling the character of Batman. Especially now, I think these last couple issues really lent more into Batman himself. Because before it felt like he was kind of there, but it was introducing the villains, it was introducing what was going on with Two-Face. Here it really feels like it's doing some really great character stuff with him. So, yeah. And the fact that, and I think this conversation was just good at highlighting that, there's a lot of interesting things that play beneath the surface here. No pun intended, because they're talking about Beneath the City a lot in this, but...
Well, yeah, too. But beneath the surface of all of these characters as well. That seems to be the uniting factor of someone like Two-Face and Bruce and even Gordon and Montoya, is who are they really? So, and who is Gotham really? I like that whole through line that's been going on through MV's run.
Yeah. Yeah, if I was to kind of like, obviously I've made some ballsier potential predictions in this review, but if I was to make a more, I think, broad one that I think is more likely to just be the case, is the idea that, ultimately realizing that, Gotham has made Batman and made these other characters like Gordon and like Montoya, who's the Question, and these other weirder characters. The weirdness of Gotham is kind of going to turn out to be its strength, and ultimately what is able to fight something, this outside force that has this like almost fascist idea of what the perfect Gotham's supposed to be. So, some interesting stuff. The art is mostly good. Obviously it's the first time I think in Ram V's run where it's been more than one artist, so interesting to look at. Obviously it gets away with it a little bit because we have the different segments that kind of split it up. It doesn't feel too disjointed.
No, not at all.
But yeah. Oh, so what are you giving Detective Comics?
I'm gonna give this an 8.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go. There's some stuff in it I really loved, but I had a couple of nitpicks at the start and the end, so I'm going to pull it down to the 8 overall. But really good stuff. Enjoying the run a lot. I'll say it's definitely hitting with me more than the Batman book is right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'll agree there.
Cool. All right. Action Comics 1052. Philip K. Johnson writing with Rafa Sandoval on the art. So obviously we had the big fight at the new Steel Tower. Is that what it was called? The Steelworks Tower. So we kind of pick off right where that left off, with Metallo still around and the super family dealing with it. Your lame super character Connor Kent got his ass whipped. And Superman has to go finish the job, which he does in fairly spectacular fashion by freezing him and then punching him to the moon. So
I love that.
I figured you probably would.
Yeah, I also love in the fight with Metallo, his body is peeling like a Terminator.
Oh yeah, he gets punched in the face, and half of his like cheeks just gone.
Yeah.
Which made me kind of laugh, because like he just got this body. Like that was just like last issue, he got this new...
Well, And just the fact that you know that he's doing this because he's under duress. He's not, that's not crazy Metallo. And
well, this issue maybe goes some places with that idea, but okay.
yeah. But like at this point, he's still, being put upon to do all of this, and just he gets his ass beat by the super family, and then frozen and thrown into space. So good teamwork. I'm glad Connor's okay though.
For sure. I do love that this book's more of a super family book now. I mean, even though there's a lot of them when we go to the apartment and they're all sort of sitting, hanging out together. But they're watching Lex News and whatnot, and they're trying to the alien menace, the war zones are the danger to society, all that.
Yeah,
nonsense.
was it the Blue Earth?
The Blue Earthers
gets brought up.
Which the Blue Earthers clearly is inspired by the Flat Earthers, which is kind of funny to me. I do enjoy the reference to it. But so we got some fun stuff here. We get a little bit of the Lois and Clark raising these two kids in the middle, and by that I mean just them getting their teeth brushed, going to bed, that kind of stuff,
and reminding them, how to essentially not how to be civilized. That's rude, but they don't have to live like they did. They can be comfortable, and it's taking some adjustments because there's one panel, or I think it's I don't know their names, but the girl, right? She sleeps with blankets, chains, or towels, or whatever it is.
And they're also sleeping on the floor as well because they're not used to a bed,
right?
Which is
it's just heartbreaking. Which I like that Kenny Johnson's making us feel, these emotions for these two kids.
I mean, I've heard of people in the military or whatever not being comfortable with a regular bed for a while when they
because it's too soft compared to what they're used to.
I mean that feels like it's based on some truth there. But I mean it's all very fun and lighthearted and kind of has an air of what's the word I'm looking for here. It feels like
there's levity.
They're doing a good job looking after the kids, and none of it ever feels like depressing or dark. It's all just about giving them a nice, safe, comfortable place to actually kind of adjust and become who they're going to be. And
let the kids be the kids right now.
And what it does as well is that it allows us this couple of new viewpoints to do other things through. For example, them asking Clark why he wears glasses or things like that. Just we get this new viewpoint or a new question onto the mythology of Superman, where it's wait, why do you do this and this now? And it's kind of a different context here. I particularly enjoyed the kids saying asking about that, and then Clark's actually Clark Kent's the name I kind of associate I identify with the most because that's the one that I was actually raised with. Superman's the name that Lois gave me, and then there's the little joke where the girl's she calls you Smallville. Well, she calls me that too.
Yeah.
So
I like that. I like that little section.
Yeah. So that entire getting ready for bed segment is a lot of fun, and it contrasts really nice because the very next couple of pages is the flashback of Metallo's childhood, also with his sister. This is the sort of thing I didn't realize that doing the Metallo stuff with the brother and sister was going to mirror with the Kryptonian kids. Yeah. But this was good storytelling because immediately I was I see what you're doing, Johnson. I see what you're doing, you sly bugger.
Yeah, it was a nice turn, of the story.
So we see that he's the big brother, she's the little sister. Their uncles bring their dad back one night. They've clearly killed someone or at least injured someone, and they ask him as a young boy to go and get rid of a gun because he'll be less suspicious, I guess.
Go throw this into the river as far as you can.
Yeah, and his uncle says, if you ever tell anyone about this, I'll kill you. That's basically what he says. So so no matter what we get for the rest of the story, there's a level of sympathy or at least empathy with this character because it's okay, he's a product of a very, very poor upbringing and the people around him.
Yeah, it reminded me of Captain Cold too.
A little bit. Yeah.
The stuff that he dealt with his dad and why family is so important to him. As he was always the defender for his sister and against his dad.
Yeah, Captain Cold also, of course, has the sister as well, which is a constant thing that's brought up. And so Metallo wakes up in space and his ice breaks off, and then he starts to see his sister as a hologram, as if she's the one that's been beamed to him now instead of Lex. But But there's a couple of red flags here, I think, to the reader, which is she's like, oh, Superman's taking me somewhere because he's worried that, because I got a little confused by one of the lines, because I thought she was trying to say that Lex put her somewhere so that Superman couldn't find her. But it sounded like she's saying Superman did it. And then the more I read, I was like, no, she did say Superman. That's what she meant. Because this is like this. So we have to kind of go forward to the next bit to explain this. So basically, Superman mentions that he checked in on Lex because during the fight at the start of the issue, at one point, Metallo does actually say something to Lex out loud. And obviously, you're thinking, oh, well, at least some of them heard that. They've got super hearing. Like, someone heard him talking to Lex. But they're talking about it later on after they put the kids to bed, and Clark's like, I looked in on Lex when he was talking to him, and Lex was sitting in his prison cell. Because I was getting ready to nitpick a little bit, not in a big way, but I was coming into this when I was halfway through the issue. Before we got to this, like, he's sitting in prison moment, I was like, how does this remotely line up with what's happening in Superman right now? Because Lex is in prison and he's not going after Superman at all. I mean, maybe he's secretly going after Superman, but he's more trying to give him the company to help him, right? Now, obviously, both books don't have to be completely concurrent, but it's so different. If here he's like hiring Metallo to try and kill him versus, in Superman where he's like pretending to be his friend and like giving him the company and all that. So I was getting ready to say it's not a big deal, but like these two don't line up at all right now. And then it gets to this page where Superman's like, no, he's in prison cell, and he wasn't talking to him when Metallo was talking to someone. So whoever he's talking to, it's not Lex. And immediately I thought about it and went, did Lex ever talk to him in person? Since he started being teased, it was always a hologram in his head or a voice in his head, wasn't it?
It was always a voice in his head. It was a voice in his head at first, right? And we thought they were talking through the prison, right? And then now when you look back and think about it, it's like, well, no, it was always in his head, because remember, until he got the upgrades, he was kind of just like a shell, right? He was just kind of sitting there. So where did he get these upgrades from?
Well, okay, there's a couple of good questions here yet. Is where did he get the upgrades? Who's actually talking to him, if it is someone else pretending to be Lex, or is it just a voice in his head? The fact that his sister's now talking to him in his head like this makes me think it is just in his head, and it also makes me question, was his sister always just in his head? That said, though, the guards at the prison did talk about the fact that his sister usually comes in, and now she's not, which makes me think that her not showing up, like on the last time, which is what convinced him to go full villain, was just her not showing up, like for whatever reason, like she's choosing not to go see him anymore, or
it's who's ever posing as Lex. Because I still feel like if they're using Lex's voice, right, they would still try to use Metallo's sister against him.
Yeah, you could be right. I think that's slightly less interesting to me than the sad truth that she's just like doesn't want to like spend time with her weird robot brother anymore. Because I think that could be quite heartbreaking when he finds out that she's fine, she's not in trouble at all, she just stopped showing up. It would be kind of a big character moment for him.
It would be if she's in on it, right?
I don't know if I'd like that.
Or if she, that she's part of this Blue Earth movement because of all the stuff that Superman, all the stuff that he stands for and has led her brother to get into trouble or whatever. But that doesn't really gel.
I think that's less interesting. Like her
I don't know if it also gels with what we've seen about her showing up to hang out with her brother.
Yeah, her being villainous is less interesting to me. Like I think it's far more interesting if she either just chose to stop coming, other things got more important, which is just kind of sad in kind of a forgetful way, or maybe something bad did happen, but it was just she's in a car accident or something. Yeah. Right. And it has nothing to do with like any threats or anything like that, and it's all just paranoia in Metallo's head. It does leave the question: is where did he get the fancy body?
And this is where we get the conversation with the kids also, that they ask if he's unmade.
And we need to. That was a really good point. Yeah, because they're asking about Metallo.
Yeah, so they ask if he's an unmade, and Superman thinks
it's after Superman and Steel explain what Metallo is.
Metallo is to them.
They talk about how he was a person, he got injured, and he's basically just like a husk left in this metal body now. He's just like a brain with a metal body. And they go, oh, he's an unmade, which I thought was a really smart little writing touch, because it was like, oh, that brings this like... Obviously, it references the previous big arc that Johnson just did in a cool way, which is nice. But it also makes these kids feel more three-dimensional to me, because it just they viewed it through their lens, and it felt very natural, because it would make sense that they would see it that way given where they came from and what they've grown up with.
And this is where I give Sandoval credit, is the face of Clark when they tell him that, it clicks, and he's you can see it.
You know what? Face. Kinda is an unmade.
Is, and then and now that makes me wonder about the ties of Warworld to this blue movement, to the Blue Earth movement, because we'd already have that wrap up of what's his name, he was Mongol's right hand.
Desad. Desad?
No, that's not.
That's Darkseid's dude. Yeah,
that's Darkseid's right hand. But the guy who's very much like Desad, he was the oldest war zone, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and they had all that stuff with Supergirl as a backup. So I'm almost.
I'm not convinced that the Blue Earthers, I still think the Blue Earthers are just a reaction to I think that's a natural, just human reaction that's happening to what's going on. But I do think you might be onto something, that something left over from Warworld is what's doing it. Who's given Metallo the body, and who's maybe either pretending to talk to him, or at least capitalizing on him going more paranoid and crazy, and talking to a voice in his head, whatever it turns out to be. I do think I think even if there's not a direct tie to it, I love that this idea of the war zones who are on Earth are creating this political backlash of this this alt-right movement of Blue Earthers. But I also love the idea that even just the themes of the kids seeing him as an unmade is a really cool way to keep the themes of that story going. It feels like there's been an impact on the world because of that story, even though we're not in that story anymore. I appreciate that serialized world building and storytelling where everything that just happened still matters, even though we're not dealing directly with it anymore. Comics all too often, like an old TV show where there's a story every week, we'll just forget everything else that ever happened. And I'm not saying you have to reference them constantly, and honestly it can be quite forced if they're just awkwardly bringing things up in dialogue. All the examples in this issue that we're talking about, I think, feel very natural and feel like just a part of the world that's been created for this run.
Yeah, well, and it feels like a larger piece of Johnson's run in a ways. I don't know how far you got into Aaron's Thor, but we got 2 or 3 trades worth of stories in, and he's referencing back stuff that had happened before. Character decisions that were made, in issue 6 now having an impact in issue 24 or whatever. And so it feels like it does in this world. It has had an impact. And just the idea of these refugees coming from Warworld, and of course that causing issues on Earth and whatnot.
Yeah, to go back to Metallo in prison just for a second, his sister.
Yeah.
I said that she probably was really there because the guards referenced her. I think the other reason why she was definitely really there before is because one of the red flags when he was talking to the hologram of his sister in this was that she said, "Oh, you're going to have to kill Superman and all of his family." That did not feel like the same character who was talking to him in the prison. That felt like the real person was there in the prison, and then this hologram's in his head. And it's just the Lex one wasn't working, so it's turned into his sister because that's more personal. Again, well, that's because it's his own psychology doing that to him, or if it's an outside force that's changing tactics, could be either. But I wanted to bring that up. But anyway, the end of the book is that Metallo goes back down to Earth. He lands next to a group of these quote-unquote Blue Earthers who want to, go and blow up more of the building or something like that.
Silly-ass armbands.
Yeah.
And a bunch of nerds.
They basically take one look at him and say, "Oh, you're one of them. Let's try and kill him." And Metallo obviously kills 1 or 2 of them. He then teleports the rest of them while they're still scared to his base or wherever, and basically implies at the end here that he's going to turn them into his Metallo family. So because as he's pointed out, there's an entire family of super characters now to fight. So he's going to make a family of Metallos to take them all on. So we're definitely building to a giant fight of the entire super family versus all these Metallo
bots or whatever they're going to be.
So I think that the genius of the writing in this is that Johnson's made sure that these humans are so unlikable before they become these Metallo bots that we don't have to feel too much
shame. Or
yeah, we can relish in them getting their ass kicked a little bit, I guess is what I'm saying when the time comes. Not to say that it wouldn't be advantageous to also do like, oh, it's tragic because they were sympathetic before, but he's going this way though instead, because there's probably enough meat to the story without adding in that they are also sympathetic.
Yeah, I mean, just being the Superman will try to preserve them. However, if they're too far gone, you know, I'm not upset that these are the people of Gotham, right? And Ramby's detective being turned into demons. You know, these are
no, this is very different.
Yeah, human supremacists or whatever we're gonna call them.
Yeah, so, and they they basically get involved because they immediately try and attack him. So they kind of put themselves.
They had it coming.
In multiple ways they put themselves in this position.
Yeah.
Obviously they didn't foresee this outcome, but you know,
it definitely reminded me of Terminator when the punks try to attack Terminator.
Oh sure, yeah, I could see that.
And knowing that's pop culture at this moment, but yeah. No, that was all very good. And very, very, very solid issue. But yeah, the stuff with the kids and calling him an unmade and Clark, like, it clicking with him. And so he's learning from these kids as much as they're learning from him, through different perspectives. I like that a whole lot. Yeah.
I enjoyed Superman issue 1, but I think Johnson's action is still better. Mm-hmm. I think this is still the premier Superman book right now. Mm-hmm. And this issue just sort of reaffirmed that. I mean, I kind of felt that anyway, but this issue was like, nah, like everything this is doing and the way it's bringing up the things that it's already done is really smart.
Wait, I'm just like, you're telling me I get 2 good Superman books a month? Yes, we're good.
Yeah, I've had 2 good ones for a while. That's it.
Yeah, but this is like too mainstream. This is not just John. The John book was good, right? But like, we're going to get 2. I really enjoyed that Superman issue 1. But this is just, again, when I say more of the same, it sounds like a slight, but it's not. This is what I come to expect from Johnson. And it's, at this point, it's if it does anything less than stellar, it feels like, and not that it makes me feel sad, but, so just a bit of a disappointment.
That's the thing, though. The last couple issues, because it's changed so much from the War World storyline, it does feel very fresh and different anyways. It's not like it's just we're still doing the same type of story either. So it's managed to stay fresh, but keep everything that it did before important as well, which is, again, I think it's firing on all cylinders. And I love this. I think Sandoval's art in this main story was great as well. The action at the start was good. You could tell Superman was doing his super breath right before he froze Metallo.
And the facial expressions too, because there's that scene where they're all hanging out, like, and they talk about the reason that Lex had Metallo attack Steelworks is because it's taller than Lex Tower.
And one of them says, is it plausible that he just did that because it was taller than his tower?
Right.
And the Steeler, someone says, oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But yeah, just the look on their faces and everything. And there's
even what you said,
a natural expression to stuff. You know what I mean?
Even you said earlier about when the kids said, is Metallo unmade? Like Clark's expression sort of did the storytelling there of like, when it comes to Sandoval, I associate Sandoval, I think, with Green Lanterns and Flash, which is a lot more action driven, and the action stuff is good here. But for me, this issue really sings when they're all back at the apartment, talking and going over things. And those were probably my favorite scenes. But this new wrinkle that's added in, because I think we liked the idea of Lex being the one behind, like bringing out Metallo and forcing him to do it. But this is actually the sort of thing where it's almost more interesting if this is just either in his head and he's justifying that he's doing bad things again by making himself think that Lex is doing this, or if there's a third party, possibly someone War World related, that is using him and actually making him a literal unmade, as well as just him spiritually being one, because that's kind of what he was anyway.
Yeah.
So
I would definitely be more everything's in his head and he's making up it, but he did get upgrades, right? So
that's the only thing that goes against that, is that there is upgrades. Like he did get a body.
Yes.
So
now again, we don't know what Metallo, like, is it nanite technology? Is it, like, we don't know right now, because I could see that where he wouldn't realize, because he's so disassociated and he was in such a low place and wanted to be left alone in the prison, that he's thought that this is someone else's doing, but it's actually all him. I could see something along those lines, but we'll see. I'm excited to find out.
Yeah. And if it is someone from Warworld, it wouldn't surprise me if the reason why they wanted to attack the tower was kind of what happens as a result. It's basically it'll be blamed on the war zones. It'll be blamed on the aliens on Earth to stir up, hatred and stir up like this idea of dissent. So it could be possible that someone was pretending to be Lex, communicating with him, and now his sister's just in his head, and the sister's not been. That's just all him doing that now. But it still would make sense if it was someone, and they've just changed tactic to because if they could pretend to be Lex, they could pretend to be his sister.
And that's where I'm at too.
Yeah,
is there.
So no, great stuff. I did read one of the backups though, because
I read both of them, so we'll go through them real quick.
Yeah. So the John story, by what's his face, Dan Jurgens, with
art by Lee Weeks.
Yeah, Lee Weeks' art is fantastic. Which is not surprising to say. So we ended the last part of the story with John finding a crashed ship, and an alien woman comes out, and she basically says, "Take me to your king," and he's like, don't really have a king per se, but
not here. It's very good. Like Earth doesn't have a king, but there are kings on Earth. Him trying to explain it in a very kid-like manner. I liked.
Yeah, but she basically wants Superman. She wants to talk to Superman, and he's like, "Yeah, I know about Superman." She keeps saying the Kryptonian, I think was the exact phrase, but he ends up using his powers to like stop her ship from, was it self-destructing or something like that? It was it was beeping, but he obviously damages a lot more than that, and she's kind of like, you just destroyed all the flight controls, like it's kind of done now. But of course, quite quickly this robot looking thing shows up saying, so her name's Princess Gliana, and
from Playan. What's the name of the planet?
I don't know.
Something like that.
Not on this page. But he's there to take her back to wherever she came from. Apparently there's some sort of civil war on their planet, and this robot's from the other side of the conflict. Because her dad's like fighting for the good side, presumably. This robot's part of the bad guy side, and he's there to take her back and try her with treason and things like that. So they get blasted. A little bit of action here. It's got like sort of it's very pulpy. He's got green big beams, tractor beams that pick them up. John yells for Superman. That's the first time we cut to him in the story, and he flies towards him as Lois gets scared and goes looking for John in the house. And then it ties into the opening of the story, which is there's a guy in a truck hitchhiking on his way to the Kents. And in the end, we find out this is Doombreaker, who's at the door for Lois to greet.
Every issue of this now, I feel like I need to go read that Jurgens story in the special. But then that requires me you picking up that Death of Superman special. So,
because I like,
the completionist of me is crying out, and the other part of me is like, you don't have time for that.
Yeah, if this didn't specifically say Doombreaker, I couldn't have told you who this was, because I didn't know who Doombreaker was. But
me neither. I did like the beginning of the guy in the truck's like, "Hey man, you're okay? You look like really sick." So like his body is going through something, and then as we see, he's looking like Doomsday.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed this much like I did the last part, mainly because John's voice. It's nice to have that kid John back again. And obviously Jurgens is the one who kind of did most of that stuff. And not all of it. Obviously Tomasi did a lot of it as well.
Yeah.
But it was nice to be back in that part of the world. I do kind of wish it was just a full 20 pages though, and that the other backup wasn't there. But obviously that's biased because I don't like the other backup. But, I would like a more significant chunk. But that's just one of the problems I tend to have with backups in general. Yeah. So, what was your thoughts on the Power Girl backup?
So the Power Girl one is that they, her and Omen have this therapy center for superheroes, and they're talking about like if they really did help Gar, or if because Power Girl's like, yeah, but like his connection was tenuous at best still, and Omen points out he's like, well, yeah, he still has a lot of work to do. We're not gonna fix everybody on their first try, So this is going to take a little bit.
Yeah, maybe they should put him in a sanctuary where he can go and get therapy. And
yeah. Not that one, though. Well, we'll go to a different one.
He's a hero in crisis, Matt. He needs a sanctuary.
well, we'll do a Titan in danger or something. No heroes in crisis, you know. Um, so, but Omen feels very comfortable about like what they're doing. She's very sure of herself, and then Kara comes in, and Power Girl feels weird because she feels like there's heat between her and Kara because of who Power Girl is, and we kind of get confirmation
I
here that
mean, if all the fan fiction the internet setting to go by,
yeah,
I'm sure there is.
yeah, right. Um, but like she feels like Kara's the real Kara Zor-El, and that her being from a parallel Earth, she's not the real one. She doesn't feel like part of the super family. She kind of feels like the redheaded stepchild because she doesn't get the invite to hang out in Metropolis like everyone else does. But Kara comes in and she's talking like gibberish, and it's not like the Kryptonian, like when they use the Kryptonian font for Kryptonese and whatever. And so they talk, and Omen sits Kara down and was like, "Hey, I know you can understand us, you just can't speak. So this is what we're gonna do." And they go telepathically because she can still communicate telepathically with them. And she said, just since you know um, for the last couple of weeks after her last adventure, she's been having this issue communicating. And so Karen goes in, Power Girl goes in, and she sees Argo City. And there's a version of Kara in there. And Kara's like, "Why do I look like this?" And Power Girl's like, "Well, this is your ideal self. Like, this is what you've always wanted. Like, you miss Argo City. I don't remember Argo City, so I can't give you this perspective." And she looks around, and there's all these monuments of like Krypton here. And Power Girl starts to put together like it's these memories, and her trying to hold up Argo City as this perfect memory is what's kind of adding to this trauma and her ability to not communicate. But she can't get rid of these things. Kara has to do it. So basically, she starts taunting her and being like, "Yeah, you're the real one, but I've had to become my own person. You've got to be Superman's cousin. I have to be myself." And this is where it comes out, where she talks about feeling like the redheaded stepchild of the super family. And as they're going, Kara's destroying these like monuments, and as she's on the outside, Omen sees her, and she's like not slate talking, but she starts to talk. Like she starts like saying stop, and that's not true. And that's how they start to realize that these are the blocks that are up in her brain that's causing the trauma. So um, they finally get to the last one, and there's like this darkness around it. And Power Girl realizes that no, someone is mentally attacking Kara. So she comes out of the thing, and comes out of the therapy session, and was like, "Look, someone's attacking you. We're gonna have to get to the bottom of this." And that's where that ends. So again, I love that what Leah Williams is doing for the story of kind of this therapy for superheroes, and kind of digging deep on these different perspectives. This whole Kara versus Power Girl and where they stand is a question that I've had since they've decided to give Power Girl this new telepathic, subset of powers and whatnot. So just having them have these defined roles in, her not remembering Argo City, and her having a completely different relationship to Superman than Kara does. That's what makes them defined here. So, yeah, really, really enjoy it. I understand that the Savage art's not for everybody, and ever since you've mentioned the dead doll eyes, I can't help but see it, and it drives me nuts because I love the color. I love the breakdowns of the pages. But yeah, sometimes the faces are a little bit teensy bit scary. So, but no, I'm enjoying
They
the
all
story
like
a lot.
Megan. Like they're gonna come and kill you in your sleep.
Yeah, yeah, Megan. So yeah, did you watch the unrated one yet?
No.
Okay, dang.
I've heard there's some more blood spatter, but it's not that
Yeah.
much of a difference than you think
Okay.
it would be.
Gotcha. So, anyways, so yeah, so we're gonna rate the book as a whole.
Yeah. Well, you go first. You always go first. Don't try to trick me. How dare you?
No. But I didn't know if that's where we were ending it, or if you had anything else to say. So, the first
On the backup, I didn't read.
No, but on the other backup.
Okay.
So the main story I'm gonna give an 8.5. The John story I'll give about a 7.5, and I'll give the Kara story 7. So trying to add these all up, I'll give it an 8 overall.
Very good. I think I'm going 9. I think the main story for me, I think, is a great issue, a great continuity issue of a run that is using all the tools that it's sort of built up over its run so far in interesting ways to build its characters and the story. The Metallo kind of like teases and twists that he's not actually been speaking to Lex is super interesting. I think the high point of Detective this week was a little higher than anything in Action, but I think Action was more consistent and overall a much better experience from beginning to end, with no weak points. So I have to go 9, I think, because I really liked it. And the John backup was fun. It was a nice to go. I'm kind of just rating the main story though. I'm for the most part, I just kind of let the backups be separate and don't really think about them too much. But yeah, so there you go.
Yeah.
Batman versus Robin issue 5. Mark Waid writing with Mahmud Asrar on the art. So this follows,
which is weird because my cover that I got physically also had Godlewski's name, but I don't see Godlewski anywhere in the credits page.
Oh yeah, interesting.
So I thought with the heft of this, I thought there was a backup. And
it must have just been a misprint.
Must have been.
Yeah.
So
this comes after the Lazarus Planet Omega. And as I kind of said earlier on, when we were talking about, the list of books we were doing, after reading this and realizing this is probably just the end of the book, it's very weird that Omega and Alpha weren't just issues 5 and 6 of this series, and then this was issue 7.
I think they were trying to justify it as there was no Batman versus Robining in that. And in here, that's what we get now. It's Robin versus Batman.
Don't get me wrong. It'd be kind of weird if there was all these one-shots tying in between just a couple of issues of this miniseries. That would feel a bit odd as well. But so I think that's why they named them differently and made it this little thing. But you can't read Lazarus Planet Alpha and Omega without Batman versus Robin as well. They're all one story.
Yeah. Well, and this is the conclusion to that story too.
Yeah, this is the conclusion.
This should have at least. Does it have a banner? No, there's no there. It's just it says the Lazarus epilogue on the cover, but this maybe should have had a banner or something.
It feels a bit strange. It feels a bit disjointed in its naming and whatnot. But this very much is the ending to the story. It's Batman's possessed by Neza, and Damian has to deal with that, which involves tricking him and getting away from him in the Batcave, which leads to a fun chase. Neza, Batman uses the Dick and Damian Batmobile to chase him, which was a nice touch.
I love Damian going, "That's my Batmobile."
I do love that Wade's getting to use things in continuity that happened while he was away from DC. He's like, "Yeah, I like some of this stuff when I wasn't here, so I'm going to use some of it." So yeah, basically the issue is Monkey Prince helps, of course, but Damian effectively assembles all the Bat family, much like he did before with the Robins, but this time he also brings in the Batgirls, and it's like, okay, if we're going to take down Bruce, we have to do it all as a team. And sure enough, we get Batman fighting all the various Bat family members. That's a big chunk in the middle of the issue. The big critical thing for Damian, though, is that he's been told by Monkey Prince, and then later by the other magic users who show up, that Bruce has only been kept alive because of the magic of Neza being inside him, and if they get rid of Neza, then Bruce is going to die. And it doesn't feel cheap that Damian just immediately says, well, that's the right thing to do then, because of course that's what Batman would say. Batman would be the first to hop up and say, yeah, do it.
Very pragmatic. I had my shot, but Neza's a bigger deal, so take him out.
But Damian does have a plan. He thinks he can sacrifice himself to save Batman, because that's what he asks Zatanna and Omen and whoever else at the end to do. He says
Enchantress,
sorry. She's wearing green. I thought it was Omen.
Yeah, she is. No, she is. But yeah, after reading Action and then reading this, I did do the same thing. But remember when Damian calls her like a trollop or something, I feel like he would do that to Omen. So.
Yeah, and they're like, that may not be quite enough. And they even say, like, I'm sure any of the other Bat family would volunteer to give up their life for him. And Damian says, what if we took a little bit of all of us? And they say, that wouldn't quite be enough. It'll take more. And he's like, well, how much more? which leads to the big thing that I've got a funny feeling you're going to have some words on, which is Damian puts out a call to Gotham City and says that Batman needs everyone's help, that everyone needs to look up to the signal and believe in Batman so that they can all take they can take a little slither of everyone's life from everyone to wake up Batman. Do you know what this made me think of more than anything? Bizarrely, I don't remember it very well, but I'm positive there was something in Doctor Who like this at one point.
Oh boy!
And I'm not a big Doctor Who guy, but I watched a fair chunk of the newer stuff.
All I was getting was in Hook, where Tinkerbell makes them say, "I believe in fairies."
Do you know what this was? I wasn't super into this necessarily, but I kind of appreciated just them like, oh, Mark Waid's doing one of his Silver Age things again, because Mark Waid loves doing weird Silver Age stuff, and that's what this felt like to me. It was nice to see them hug at the end when Batman gets back up.
I love that Damian does try this thing, but it's super saccharine-y, and just I don't like Gotham as a city. I don't feel has the same relationship as Central. If this was Central in the Flash, I would buy it.
Or Metropolis Superman, or
I didn't want to use that because then I'm a self parody. So
sure.
My next favorite hero.
I think I would have been more okay with this if they just reined it in a bit, right? And what I mean by that is that Damian says, look up into the signal. If he just said, tonight when the signal's in the sky, look up and think of Batman, and we just see some people looking up and sort of thinking about Batman, I would have said, okay, that kind of works for me. I think the fact that we cut around all these civilians like raising their fists and going, "I am Batman," that was the part that felt, oh, this is a bit cheesy now. I'm not quite clicking with that. Yeah. So like the sentiment, I do love that Damian's like determined to save him. I do like that the Bat family would all be willing to volunteer. I like those parts of it. I like the hug at the end. But yeah, the cheesiness of like having Gothamites all. I
read that and I had the biggest eye roll, and I was like, "What?" Look, Mark Waid, I like you as a writer a lot. I'm gonna cut you a little bit of slack. But I'm glad that you also found it cheesy, because just the I believe in Batman or I am Batman, definitely them just looking up and like even seeing like criminals and seeing that symbol in the sky, right? And even that fear is enough to help Batman, just Batman as an idea, and that just goes to, the whole Nolan idea of Batman, of him becoming an idea.
Yeah.
I would have gotten that. That would have been fine.
Just a bit more restraint is all I would have liked. I don't mind the idea of like the energy of everyone looking up and thinking about Batman or caring about Batman in some way would be enough to do it with the magic. I could get on board with that. But it got a bit too. It got like. It's like you wanted to have that Spider-Man moment where the city wants to help him, but it's more mystical though. Like
it felt like that's our Spider-Man and them hucking bricks at the Green Goblin.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. That's just them hawking things at the villain. If some Gothamites showed up and threw a brick at the Joker, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that's fine, whatever. That granny's got balls. She just threw a brick at the Joker.
I want that in the next Joker appearance in the in the stupid musical they're doing with what's his face as the sequel. Please have a grandma throw a brick at him.
She's got one of those what do you call those quad walker things? Like
a stroke walker type deal.
She's got a walker. Yeah. She's walking along. She throws a brick at the Joker's head, and then just goes, "You take that, you clown motherfucker!"
Yeah. Oh my god, that's how you'd get more than a 5 rating out of me for that movie.
Oh dear. So yeah, they hug, they run off into the night, and Batman and Robin are reunited. There you go.
I did love that final panel of them because it did feel like, man, now I want a Batman and Robin book from Mark Waid. Like it's been a minute since we've had a Batman and Robin book. I did like Monkey Prince showing up and using his cloning, his hairs, right? And then Damian's like, He says something about like, yeah, I need you to do this, but for Superboy, because like he misses his friend. I like that aspect. But then we got all the clones of Damian that attack.
We get almost like a Matrix Reloaded fight where it's like 100 Damians fighting Batman.
I like that aspect, and I like that Batman having zero hesitancy and just beating the hell out of all these kids. So that was a fun juxtaposition. But yeah, no, I was really enjoying it, and then I got to that big thing of cheese, and I was just like, oh, geez, Waid, what are you doing, bud? You know. And a lesser writer, I would have definitely been like, okay, I'm done. But I gotta see, is he gonna stick this landing? And he does, because there are some very nice moments that we haven't really, when you look about where the Robin book started from Williamson, and him feeling guilty about Alfred and him going through this journey, and then the stuff that has happened through Lazarus Planet and here, it feels like now that Damian and Bruce are back on that, not level playing field, but father-son relationship.
I mean, despite our critiques at some of the cheesiness towards the end, like, I think this was an easy to read, and given the fact that it's like 45 pages, credit. I didn't feel like it was a slog to get through. It flowed quite well. Action was good. Yeah,
the art. I like Asrar as an artist, so the art was really, really good.
He's good house style. That sounds like an insult, but I don't mean it to be. I just mean he's good house style.
No, but he has this heaviness to his pencils that the house style doesn't. Like, it's not exactly clean, but it's not sketchy. Like, again, there's a heavy shadowiness to it that I really like, because you can tell when it's Asrar. So I'd love to see him on like a Zatanna magic book to see what comes out of that. Like, so, but it was fine. It was not expecting the city of Gotham to be yelling, "I am Batman." I mean, when I picked that book up,
we still have Waid doing some Batman and Robin in World's Finest, because we got a Robin in that, and he's effectively swapping this for the Shazam ongoing that he's starting in May. So,
with Dan Mora. So let's get stoked on that one. See, that is where I can deal with some cheese, right? Because that's Shazam in a nutshell. He was known as the Big Red Cheese, so he can do all the silliness there, and I don't think I'll have an issue with it.
The Big Red Cheese.
Yeah.
That's gotta be Shazam!
Just remembering the really mean name Lawler used to call Cade, and how that would not go in 2023.
Oh, sure, yeah. All right, what are you rating Batman versus Robin issue 5?
I'm gonna give it 7.5.
Yeah. I'll give it a straight 7, I think. I still enjoyed reading it. It does get a bit too cheesy towards the end. I think, like, Batman versus Robin as a whole, including Lazarus Planet, and I just mean the like Alpha and Omega. I'm not really including all the other one-shot things.
One-shots.
Overall, it was an enjoyable enough story with some high points, and it kept us guessing at points, which was nice. But ultimately, just kind of a fun bit of fluff with a good little bit of character here or there, as opposed to being like a standout story like some of all the other stuff that is going on. But okay, there you go, Batman versus Robin. Stargirl, The Lost Children, issue 4. Geoff Johns writing with Todd Nauck on the art. So this, we get Corky doing some explaining, talking about Flashpoint and how Manhattan stole 5 years of the timeline, and this displaced a bunch of people, and they were keeping all these kids, all these sidekicks, kind of safe in the time vault, and it was Batman stealing stuff from the vault when he was trying to create his own snow globe universe for his Flashpoint father.
Beyond.
That basically released these like kids into the time stream, and then Childminder stole them out of the time stream and put them on this island where it's outside of time.
For someone to come and purchase them.
Yeah, she's going to sell them to someone, which the issue teases a few times, and at the end you get the big reveal of who it is.
So I just want to take a minute, and I messaged Pete yesterday, and I was like, hey, I'm going to do a victory lap. And then this guy, who I've done a show with 4 years at this point, goes, I don't even remember what you said.
I don't. I assume you predicted something to do with Our Man, since Our Man shows up at the end.
No, it has everything to do with Corky and the Flashpoint Beyond, and about how the snow globe is responsible for the kids. Because whatever Batman did with the snow globe,
I don't even remotely remember you saying that.
Yeah, because I said, remember, because Corky being here and Corky being the only Time Master we saw with Bruce, right? And Flashpoint Beyond, that snow globe has to do with these kids. And then I also tied it to JSA, right?
Oh, so do you think, from Corky's perspective, this is set before when he showed up in Flashpoint Beyond? Like, so those scenes where he's talking to Batman, do you think those scenes for Corky happen after this?
I'm not sure, because something has to happen with the snow globe to kick off the Flashpoint Beyond stuff. right? So I'm not sure where this all takes place in time. However, being that they're all Geoff Johns, I'm sure
technically
he knows.
it's outside of time, and I know that before any smart arses in the comments tell me that. But I'm just saying from the perspective of Corky saying Batman stole this globe, it's caused this problem, and he's here with the kids. I'm just wondering if his like altercation with Batman is after he gets out with all the kids.
Yeah, I'm not sure because of timey-wimey, right?
Yeah, timey-wimey, yeah.
Because all of the stuff, but but I also like that this is Johns going through and in his own way playing with continuity in the ways that I like, of being like, yeah, these kids are from out of time, and the reason they don't exist is because of Batman.
There was there was a funny response to that where he says he brings up Batman, and one of the sidekick goes, "Who's Batman?"
Yeah, and I just, in the meta sense, again with the metaverse and how this ties in with Doomsday Clock and this new thing called the Divine Continuum, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, is just the idea of these golden age superheroes changing, like these sidekicks changing when Batman comes around, right? And the idea of the introduction of Robin. And,
that's an interesting meta perspective on this. It's a representation of Batman changed comics fundamentally when he showed up.
Right. So and I like that. That's why I like love Geoff Johns as a writer, for him going back and playing with comics in and of themselves. So but yeah, and Corky telling them about where they are now, or he had seen the Divine Continuum, which big DC letters, which that cracked me up. Because we had in Flashpoint Beyond, we saw the difference between the Omniverse, which is space, and Hyper Time, which is the time continuum. And wherever they are, whatever he had seen, he kind of described as heaven, as this Divine Continuum is over them all. But when you look at his little chart, it also has the sphere of the gods. So I'm wondering what all of this has to do with that aspect of things. Like,
the new gods. I have no idea. I do like the idea though. It starts with them like in their bubble traveling through time, and they literally see Barry on his way to do Flashpoint. I thought that was an interesting little.
There goes Flash to go screw things up. I love it.
So Barry Allen. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the big thing is that because there's a tease with Judy running on her treadmill that she's seeing every time when she runs on the treadmill. She sometimes gets glimpses of her father. She gets glimpses of the life that was taken from her, and she says just before she passes out, "Oh, like there's someone else with my father who's supposed to be a friend," and that's your kind of tease before the last page when Our Man shows up. And didn't we say last time that the
because the Miraclo Beach,
the sand on the beach, was the same as the sand on his hourglass, so they kind of teased that then as well. It's interesting. So the kids are all storming the castle effectively to come after and rescue whoever's captured and try and get off the island. And this is when Our Man shows up at the end. So more than half the issue is Corky explaining all the bullshit, which is, I don't know, if you care about continuity and have some fun with how Johns plays with it, you'll have some fun with it. And then there's some fight scenes, and then Our Man shows up.
So I'm trying to figure out which Our Man this is, because this looks like the Android version, but I know it's not, because they also say he's the representative from Tyler Co., which is Rex Tyler's company, and whatnot. So trying to figure out which one. I'm sure there's going to be an answer there. But this whole island being on outside of time, and the childminder, the idea that she was the idea or the inspiration for Mother Goose. I thought that was another fun little wrinkle, right? That she's this bird lady, and then she explains that, well, no, they, in order for their human minds to comprehend it, that it was an old lady with a goose, and they were separate, they weren't the same, and that she's not exactly, in her eyes, evil. She's just, rearing these children for their own, for whatever they're going to do. Mind you, she's selling children. So,
well, and it also raises the question, what does Our Man want with the kids? What's his purpose? Oh. He's been presented as quite villainous here, but what's the end goal exactly?
Yeah.
So, who knows?
So I'm trying to figure out. So, a lot of fun. I like all of these new kids. Yeah. Molly Pitcher pouring weapons out of her actual pitcher, I thought was a fun little thing. And then the robot dog and Stargirl asking if he could link up, and he goes, I have no idea what that means. I'm just a clockwork dog that's meant to, make humans comfortable around robots.
She's like, you don't
I
have
thought that was
Wi-Fi?
funny.
What?
Yeah. I thought that was all really funny. So, but yeah, it felt really good. This feels like the Johns that I, fell in love with and going to the comic shop weekly to go see, read, to go check out Teen Titans and Flash and all the other stuff that he was working on. So, it seems like he's got his groove back, and I'm happy for that.
Yeah, it's a bit weird that GSA seems like it's on a bit of a delayed schedule. It feels like we've been a while since issue 2, but it does feel like he's building to something, which is nice. It's almost like they're just giving him his own little corner to like mess around with what he wants to. So we'll see what comes of it.
I'm wondering how Judy Garrick plays into all this too, because there's always a thing about Jay and his wife taking in Bart because they couldn't have kids of their own. I just hope that doesn't change that dynamic, right? Judy just shows up and it changes things with Bart. I hope that's not what comes from it. So,
well, I think it has to. I think that's why the choice is made to do it, is that it's such a key part of their character that they wanted Bart because they couldn't have a kid of their own. To find out that they did have a kid of their own that was taken from them in time is what makes her narratively quite interesting. It's like, no, you did have a kid, and then she vanished. Like you this was stolen from you, and this was something that we know the characters always wanted. So that makes it important. Especially since it's not like we're not going to have, or I'd be very surprised if we get any Jay taking in Bart stories anytime soon. Anyway, I feel like that part of history is done. So I don't think it matters. I really don't think it affects anything.
No, it doesn't. But for me, for personal reasons, it there's a little thread there that it makes me kind of sad that they're changing that. And I'm curious to see how this fits in, because I think they name drop Judy in JSA.
I think so. Yeah.
So
see, but I wouldn't see them as them changing something. I see it as them using that part of history to inform why this character existing at all is interesting. Yeah. So she only works and is interesting as a character because that's part of like Jay's history. So
gotcha.
But hey, it was a fun time. I mean, as an issue, it's a bit uneven because it's this weird like half is just exposition and then there's a bit of a fight and then the other man shows up. But like I found it quite interesting. I'd probably will you rate it first?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5. I thoroughly enjoyed this. It has nothing to do with the victory lap, but that helps. But feels nice when I'm right because it doesn't happen all the time. So,
allegedly right, I'll say.
Yes.
I'll just go with 7.5. I think it's a bit uneven as an issue, but I do enjoy the playing with the I think it's just a little bit too much like clunked together at the start, but I do like what it's playing with and what it's sort of setting up for the future. So fun stuff. All right. Blue Beetle Graduation Day issue 4, Josh Trujillo and Adrian Gutierrez on the art. So what happened this issue, Matt?
Yeah, so they need the guy that was with Jaime's friends is the grandson of this old Dan Garrett or Ted Kord villain. Let me pull it up. I forgot his name. But is basically trying to go back and get his grandpa's artifacts, and he's tracked it down to let me find this. His name is Leo Lamont. His grandpa was the supervillain. He was the original Fadeaway Man. So he wore this magical cloak, which granted him like invisibility, intangibility, and flight. And he fought the Justice Society. And so he's here to get something of his grandpa's back. And this cloak that he's wearing around him, this like purple bandana, is telling him that it's at the what's his name? I keep wanting to say Tyler because now Our Band's on my brain, but Blue Beetle at Ted Kord at Kord Industries, he needs to get in there. So he tells Jaime, like, I'm going to need your help. I know you can get in there, because you've had to have heard of someone named Victoria Kord. And so this leads to the four of them sneaking in, and Fadeaway uses his intangibility, so he's able to like phase through stuff to go with Jaime, and he sends the two friends to run Disruption. And while they're there Jaime uses his scarab, which of course was what Batman had told him not to do, right? Because of the whole Reach and this other group. Um, which then Paco gets excited because now he's like, oh, we're doing superhero stuff again. Um, so as they're sneaking around the Cord Industries, they find Dynasties and how she's all locked up, which has some pretty big consequences for Jaime because the Beetle, his scarab starts freaking out. And, um, she's like, you don't understand, like that Beetle that you have fused to you is an engine of destruction. Like, as long as someone has it, you're a danger. So, like she tells them, all the Reach technology must be destroyed to make way for the Horizon. So that made me think like maybe the Horizon aren't these, refugees, revolutionaries fighting for freedom. There's like a full on, war going on between them. Um, and then they get to talking about like, yeah, like that's what it used to be, but me and my Beetle until you showed up, we had an understanding um, because of who I am. I'm a hero. And we prevented the Reach invasion. Um, but she's like, yeah, you're a good guy, but you're gonna lose control. They all do. Um, and then it Paco and the other friend end up running distractions that leads to Dynasties getting out because they Jaime and Fadeaway get her bag out and her scarab jumps back to her and then she takes off. Fadeaway takes the thing he was looking for and he nopes out, which leaves Jaime there for Ted and his sister to find him. And the sister freaks out and Jaime is like, well, no, you stole that. She's like, I did not. Yes, I didn't get it from someone who's on the up and up, but I purchased it because we need to find out what's going on with all of this stuff. Like, I'm a scientist. I need to know how things work so we can, protect ourselves from whatever. And it ends with Starfire coming in and, want to make sure that he's safe. Um, and Jaime transforming back and is like, yeah, you're not going to tell Batman, are you? And Cord's like, it's Batman. He already knows. It leads to Batman in the Batcave with the Justice League, which one of these guys I don't recognize. It looks kind of like the Freedom Fighters member Black Condor. So he's this guy in this black like flight suit, and kind of like this weird mohawk, standing next to Cyborg. But it's Batman in the Batcave with Shazam, with Jessica Cruz, Barry Allen, Cyborg, and what looks like Black Condor. And he's like, we have our mission. There's a hostile aliens in Palmyra City, and they're taking time bomb. So don't let Blue Beetle stand in your way, and that's where it ends. So looks like Batman sending this, backup level Justice League to go apprehend the Beatles. Because you got to remember, there's 3 of them running around right now.
Jessica Cruz is on the team. It's the A team. Come on now.
Yeah. But it's also you have Shazam and you got Cyborg and Black Condor. Like any team Black Condor's on, it's not the A squad. So. Do
you even know it's Black Condor? You said he looked like Black Condor.
I don't.
You're not sure.
Judging from the costume, that's who it looks like. So, but I did love Ted being like, "It's Batman." He already knows, man. Like you're in trouble. So it's definitely played on Jaime's too trusting nature. I do feel like, and this might just be because I have information from the movie, that Victoria Cord isn't, on the up and up, and that her saying that she, got this stuff from, not great sources. She's definitely having this stuff stolen, so she can, be a low level Lex Luthor type. The art's pretty good, Jaime. It's very cartoony.
I can confirm it's Black Condor.
Okay, there you go. How'd you confirm?
I went to DC Wiki and it lists the characters in the issue.
Gotcha. So look at that. So, anyways, the art's really, really nice. It's very cartoony still, and Jaime's reactions to everything, really spot on, especially when he's not in the suit. But yeah, I'm gonna give this a 7 out of 10.
Okay, cool. All right. The Human Target, issue 12. I think, obviously, the main event get into this week for us, because we've been loving this book. It's the final issue. We were kind of like very curious as to how this was going to play out. It was like, all that was left was to die. And we're like, is he going to pull a Human Target style twist? And the answer to that is no. Instead, we get a fairly somber ending that's about Ice mourning the death of someone she fell in love with. Well, with a slightly like upbeat kind of ending, but for the most part, it's more downbeat.
So I don't know how I felt about this, and I still don't. I'm probably gonna have to read this again. I would finish the other ones and know exactly how I felt, but like you said, like this somber ending.
I love this. I love that he reined it in, and he wasn't tempted to do the twist, because from issue 1 we kept saying, but he's the Human Target, right? He's going to somehow not have actually died at the end.
Yeah.
I love that he didn't. I love that this turned into being an issue about a man realizing, because it's set up earlier on the book that he kind of always looked down on his father for begging to live right before he died, and he realizes, he says it to Ice here from his final conversation on the beach, because it flashes back to that halfway through this issue. He says to her that he finally understood that he wasn't begging for his own life, he was begging for more time with him, with his son. And now on some level he understands that, because now that he's about to die, he's not afraid of being dead, because he's going to be dead, he won't care anymore. He's scared of all the time that he could have with Ice, because he's only had 11 days with her. And so I think that been what the story's actually kind of about as far as his personal character goes. Apart from because the romance of this book has worked beautifully. Like we cared about them as a pair, we cared about their chemistry. Obviously there was this idea that maybe she's got something nefarious going on. It always felt genuine to an extent though, and I think so it made sense that okay, she is involved in the murder, but she's actually fallen for him. And I thought the reveal early on, which is, we hear a little bit of their conversation of him making her promise to not be there when he dies. And she comes in and finds the dead body afterwards, and she finds this note next to the bed, which she pulls off and ends up sitting on the floor, and we see it says, "I love you too," which is paid off later because we see that she said that on the beach. That was one of the things she said that made him, because it was left on the beach at that cliffhanger in that scene where it was like, how did the rest of that go that they chose to come back instead? They didn't, they didn't just kill her. He didn't take her in or whatever.
She's in a prison of her own mind and grief.
Oh sure, but I thought this was beautifully done. I thought the opening, 6-7 pages, whatever this is, of like him lying there on the bed and her coming in and seeing this note and breaking down and crying, it captures it. And I was still thinking, oh, he's somehow going to come back before the end of the issue, but I love that he didn't. That shows restraint. And
there's right there. And when I say that I don't know how I feel, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with what Ice goes and does, and and almost like
why the very end.
And just what she goes through over the course, like who she's become because of this, right? And that almost as if she's finishing her job in the way that Chance would have finished his job, right? That even though he's quote unquote dead, the job's not done yet. And there's still some of these loose ends that she helps wraps up. And so I'm still processing. So when I say that I don't know how I feel, it's not that I didn't like it, because I did like it. It's still processing what all of those mean, and how from that part where you're talking about, which I thought was all really nice and beautiful, to when she starts talking to Guy and Fire and Jean and Booster and all of that stuff.
And Luigi.
They need to give it a reread to let that everything sink in,
Yeah. Because she talks to Luigi, who says he's good. Chance has left him a lot of money, so he's going to retire the restaurant and just go and travel or whatever.
For a hot second, I thought Luigi was Chance because he said, I should have learned Italian. But I was like, nah, Christopher Chance would have known Italian, right? Like, so yeah. It's just one of those things where I kept waiting with each thing to be like, oh, he's going to show up in the back. And so that's why I think I need to read it again with a different expectation and see how everything else lands.
But they're talking about what he's going to give to her after she's done, and it turns out it's an empty whiskey bottle with his ashes in it.
Oh, yeah.
And she's with Fire, and she's upset. And I love that this like goes because this is like day 16 when she's with Fire, and the entire thing of the book was day 1 through 12, like counting down to his death. So the idea that we're beyond that part of the timeline now, and we're seeing what this has done to her afterwards, and that this was a real connection, that she is like heartbroken, she has lost someone she loves. We see her get kind of, because Jean comes to her and says, there's actually stuff to investigate here, like he never did quite find out who killed Lex, or who tried to kill Lex and effectively killed Chance, so we still have to look into that. And Ace basically flexes her muscles a bit and scares the shit out of Martian Manhunter by saying, hey, you technically broke some rules doing this, and people wouldn't want to know about that.
Are you sure you're the one to be leading an investigation?
Yeah. And then she makes a big ice, sculpture of something, and then just snaps her fingers or clenches her fist, and it all just shatters. And it's basically like, don't come for me.
Yeah.
Because I will fight you.
Well, and it's this whole thing. She's like, where I'm not the good girl, right? And she's shedding that, even to her teammates. She's shedding that old persona here. Yeah, because she said at the start of the scene, he says something. She's like, yeah, because I'm the sweet one. And then at the end, she's like, if people ask, just say, you gave the job to her because she's the sweet one. She makes that point at the end. This idea of this side of her that came out that, because for her as well, her relationship with Chance, by the end, she got to be kind of open about who she was in a way that she, even not even at the end, even when she started talking to him, it's like she's the sweet one. But as it went on, she's quite open about talking about how this is how people perceive her, and she was already being more open with them, and maybe she was being more open with them to begin with because there was an element of guilt because she knew she'd kind of caused his death. But I do love the payoff because she's like sort of like wrestling with, where do I dispose of his ashes? Did he care? Would he want it in the water? Because she goes out in a little ice raft because they had a nice moment in the water last issue. And then Guy shows up, and she finds the perfect place to dispose of of Chance's ashes by smashing them over Guy Gardner's head. I think Christopher would be approval of that. Oh, he'd love that. Yeah, he'd think that was the best. And it's a great build up in the art as well, because she's sort of leading Guy on. She hugs him, and you just see the hand tilt with the bottle in her hand. Well, and also the fact he's like, yeah, you're still my girl, right? And like, look, I say this as a Guy Gardner fan. I hate this Guy Gardner, and it's very like, because I know this guy and I hate this guy. When I say this guy, I mean this type of person, right? Yeah. And I cannot stand them. They make my skin crawl. Can I just want to say, Matt, you're in denial here because this was Guy all along, Austin. No. So the Guy I like was written in the mid 2000s, past all the machismo BS. But this is very much that era of Guy that I understand people don't like, right? Like, I like the more evolved, in touch with his feelings Guy. And this, when he puts his arm around her on the ice float and was like, yeah, babe, like, we're gonna do, it was so fulfilling when she was just like, yeah, okay, I know what I'm gonna do. So, man, and how good is this? Well, we'll talk about Smallwood art. I'll let you keep doing this. Well, it skips to day 73, and she's still got the empty bottle, and she smells it, which triggers the flashback on the beach when he had the gun pointing to her. And she's like, whatever happened to the man of action? And he's like, I can't kill you, I need a favor. And she's like, wait, you can't kill me because you need a favor, or you can't kill me and you need a favor? And he's like, does that make a difference? And she's like, yeah, to me, for the rest of my life, it'll matter. So it's like, if there was any doubt that any of this romantic relationship was an act, which I never thought it was, just because, and this was the art more than anything throughout the entire book, it sold us these people were feeling things about each other. It was so strong in that regard. But it was basically about not having regrets and finishing the job that she originally started, which is why it gets to the
it gets to the ending, which is that she still has the poison. In fact, I think I said she was smelling the empty bottle where his ashes were in. That's not
Smelling
true.
the poison.
Because she smashed that bottle. Yeah, she's smelling the poison, because in this flashback he asks about, do you still have any more of that poison left? And the final scene of the book is she's with Lex as she's, quote unquote, investigating the death of Chance, and it ends with Lex taking a swig of some booze in front of her, and she smiles, and that's the end of the issue, implying that at the end she actually gets to kill Lex Luthor, which was the original plan all along,
right?
For what he did. So, yeah,
and that's the part where she, in the spirit of Christopher Chance, finishes the job, right? Because the human target always would find a way to get it done, and over the course here, and it's not just for the revenge for Chris or her love or whatever. It was, this is what she originally had meant to set out to do, and he kind of, like a human target, got in the way, So I almost feel like his last gift to her is like, well, I'm not in your way anymore. Go get it done. And it's this weirdly morbid, sweet moment for me.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily get she's become like him and getting the job done, because it's fundamentally the opposite of what his job was. But I think I take it more as like, not giving up in what she cares about, because Chris was so detached from like everything basically, because of how he viewed the world, because of the way he was with his father, that I think by the end he kind of like understood why she needed to kill Lex Luthor on some level, because that was all about what Lex had done, what Lex had taken from her. So I kind of got it in a weird way, because it's not like she's getting revenge on Lex for Chance, even though she might, you could argue in a warped way it's kind of Lex's fault that Chris ended up dead because he hired Chris, but Lex didn't try and kill Chris. That was, if anything, that's the guilt of her, is that she was the one that kind of did that. But it does kind of work as in this weird roundabout way of like go get the person you actually meant to kill.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, these are characters who aren't like squeaky clean, right? There's always been this moral grey to both of them, and that's kind of the point here. This ending's not meant to be this squeaky happy, like, good guys did the right thing ending. It's not that.
No, it's still tragic because, she's not the sweet one, right?
Yeah.
She still is the person that, with her ex, hatched a plan to kill the man that was responsible for her dying, which is a weirdly comic book thing, right?
Yeah.
So she's still following on that through line that there is a darkness to her, and that, only a couple people know the real Torah.
Well, I think the other thing I'd relate to Human Target himself is that, his whole thing is that he wears masks and he presents to be someone else. And kind of the point here with her is that she is seen as the sweet one, but that's kind of just a mask, and no one really sees what she really is underneath. Maybe Fire does. Guy, I don't think does. Guy thinks he knows what she is, but I don't think he does.
Guy sees who he wants to see in her, and that's the sweet girl that always needs his help. That's why it was so easy for her to manipulate him into this entire scheme. Because he sees exactly what she wants him to see, and that's what Chris didn't see. Right? Chris saw through all that. Yep. And saw the real ice.
Only made her like him more or love him more, because it was something that no one else really did. So, yeah, I thought it was a really beautiful love story, ultimately, which is kind of like, obviously there's an element of tragedy to it because he was dying the whole time.
It's a tragic love story, for sure.
Like, if we're talking about Chance's art, like, god damn, like, he made me believe in these two people and how they felt about each other the entire time. It's the sort of thing where if you told me before this book started, this is really just going to be a love story between Christopher Chance and Ice.
Featuring the Justice League International. Like,
you'd be like,
what?
Oh, that's weird.
What is this?
But at the same time, I'm like, in some ways, this might be Tom King's best story. Not in every way, but in some ways it may be.
Yeah. So now that we're talking about it, and I'm able to deconstruct it stuff. Yeah, it definitely, the restraint there to have him not be, let's say, Luigi, like I thought for a hot second, because then that would ruin the the end cap.
It would just be a very different ending. There'd have to be a different point at the end that's separate from what the book actually does. I think
Right.
the idea that Lex as well can't see what she really is and falls for the trap at the end is again another testament to like who he is. That he's a bit arrogant. That he thinks he can see everything coming, but he couldn't see through her like sweet persona.
Right. So, but yeah, no, definitely would not have been the same ending with all of that if he's still out there somewhere. You know, it would feel like a cheat, and that you don't want to cheat this character and her growth.
No, there'd have to be a good reason why he wanted to get away from her at the end, and I don't think
I don't think there wouldn't be one.
No, the story just didn't build that way. This was clearly the ending it was building to the entire time. So yeah. So like if there's any complaints about how it ended, I'm like, well, the story was clearly going here. This is where it was going.
Yeah.
So it was excellent. I think it subverted a lot of expectations as it went into the last couple of issues, because instead of going for this big twisty, here's what really happened or anything, it kind of went for more this just very satisfying like character journey and the end of that story. And maybe there is some beauty in the idea that this was the story where the human target finally got to just die. Like maybe in some level that was the only way he could reach his truth, and arguably he was only truly really happy and found someone he cared about in that time when he was actually dying for real. Like, you know,
in those 12 days. You know, and
you took away the shield that he always had, and all of a sudden he actually was forced to sort of be himself and be who he could be for his last 2 weeks on Earth.
Yeah. Well, and it takes me back to the Rocket Red issue, where he's like, "You wasted one of my days."
Yeah.
And it makes it that much more tragic, you know. So because he finally got himself into a mission that he could not get out of, and it was all tangled. And I feel that is like Tom King's view on love, is that love is this thing that entangles, and it's so complicated. You know, and it's this thing that this guy who's so detached, the time that he let someone get that close was his last thing, right? It was like the last thing he did.
Which is why I think it actually does feel, even though there's obviously sadness because he's dying at the end, and obviously Ice is crying over it and all that.
Yeah,
there is kind of a happiness to it because he did get to actually experience life right at the end. He did get to finally understand things and feel like a sense of happiness that maybe he never got into before. So there is kind of a happy quality to it where he got to do that before he died. So
yeah, for sure. And he got to be, he got to crap his pants that he thought Batman was after him. You know?
Oh, that was such a good issue. Like there was so many like I think in this 12-issue book, I would say like 9 of them are like standout issues, which is insane.
For sure. You know. So, but yeah, no, it's this book of moments, and I was gonna say I don't know if it stuck the landing, but I think it more than stuck the landing. You know, again, processing it, it's just one of those things.
I think you'll appreciate it even more when you reread the whole thing someday.
For sure.
You know, when you get the hardcover or whatever and you go through the whole thing again.
Yeah, I just for the sake of, I had a really rough week at work, and like trying to read something as you're getting called away to do other things isn't the most conducive way to read something like this. So having to read it over 2 or 3 sessions versus probably sitting down to read it all at one. But yeah, I'll definitely look for me posting, dear listeners and viewers, as I'm sure reading it through one setting will make me have a different perspective. Well, not different. Will add to the perspective of it all. So, but yeah, it's just King and Smallwood. Give me another something.
I mean, given that King's doing a second book with Fornes, it wouldn't surprise me if we get a second book with Smallwood in the near future. Maybe something starting by the end of the year if we're lucky. So no, excellent. The art has been tremendous throughout. I really can't talk about enough about how even in this final issue, like her smile in the last panel, the sadness of the bed, sort of being next to the bed and all that stuff. Like there's so many more of those moments where it's just sequential storytelling where the facial reaction is changing and you can tell what's going through the character's head because we're seeing the sequence of it. The book's been exceptional at doing that the entire time. So, all right, what are you giving Human Target issue 12?
I'm going to give this a 9.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go 9.5. So there you go. That is the Human Target. So that'll bring us out to the part of the show where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel/moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and top 5 books. So, what is your panel/moment of the week, Matt?
So mine's gonna be, this is something I should have brought up on the Human Target section, but there's the sequence between ice and fire, and it's just, if you've ever lost anybody close to you, and just the conversations that you have with a very close person after that, I got that vibe just from the art from Smallwood. You know, that ice and fire sitting there having this discussion about kind of nothing, but also about Christopher Chance, and just their body language on that page where Tora leans into fire and fire hugs her. Like, it's like one of the realest things I've ever seen in a superhero comic. So that's gonna be mine.
Yeah, I actually am going to go with Detective for a moment because you're already left, haven't you? But Batman's still there. It's such a great 2-page thing. Like that was like that was such a great emotional beat that just plays on an old Batman trope in such a cool way that it landed really hard.
Yeah.
So I got to pick that.
I get it.
For cover, there's a few good options to pick this week. Shout out to the regular action cover, which is the blue negative space with all the super family. Yep. Really nice. There's a variant by Sandoval and Matt Herms, which is like a sports hug kind of thing, the group hug.
Yeah, like they're kind of in a huddle, but they're all smiling.
Yeah.
You know.
There's a variant for Human Target by Molina, which is like, them hugging with a blue streak on the white background. But the pick has to be the regular Human Target cover with Chance sitting in the chair with the blue and yellow sort of pastels and paint kind of look to it. It's just too stunning not to pick.
Looks like there's a pool of blood too, the way the colors hit on there.
Very, very good stuff. Those, but those like 4 or 5 that I just mentioned were definitely the ones that stuck out to me. What are you picking?
I was going through, looking through them. I do like the action main cover. That one's super nice. But it's that Molina Human Target variant. My shop was out of those. All they had was the main cover, which again isn't bad. But I really want that Molina cover. That's really nice. The blues and all of that, the way it hits. So that's gonna be my pick.
Okay. Best art of the week. What you got?
Before we just give it out, because we know there's a clear winner, like there is every time. Big shouts to Sandoval for Action Comics, and then Stargirl I thought was really consistent art from Nauck, so that's good. But Smallwood, it's a Human Target week, and we don't have any left now, so.
It's Smallwood. There was never a question in my head. Like Sandoval's probably the second best art of the week, but even that was there's a bit of a gap. So yeah, Human Target, Smallwood. All right, top 5 books of the week, Matt. Go.
All right, number 1 Human Target, 2 is Stargirl, 3 is Action Comics, 4 is Detective Comics, 5 is Batman. No, did I? Yeah, I'll go Batman versus Robin. It just edges out Blue Beetle.
Yeah, number 1 for me is the Human Target. Number 2 is Action. Number 3 is Detective. Number 4 is Stargirl, I think, Lost Children. And then number 5 is Batman versus Robin. So there you go. Similar lists, of course. I will tell you now what's coming next week from DC Comics. We have Batman issue 133. We have The Flash 794. Poison Ivy issue 10. Batman the Joker, The Deadly Duo, issue 5. We have Adventures of Superman John Kent, issue 1, so start of that 6-issue miniseries. We got The Joker, The Man Who Stopped Laughing, issue 6, Monkey Prince, issue 12, and out of nowhere, I did not know this was coming, we have The Flash, 1 Minute War, Start the Clock, issue 1. So another 1-issue special for 1 Minute War.
It's not, though.
Is it not?
It's a collection of the first 3 issues. So it's one of those that they did. Which is a great sign for the Flash. So this collects Flash, I think 790.
Fair enough.
789, 790.
That's on me for not reading the description. So I'm glad I left
Flash 790, 791, and 792.
I am glad I left my Patreon books both for next week, because now I have even less than I thought I'd. I have Batman, Flash, and Adventures of Superman John Kent next week. So I'll do those 3 plus my 2 Patreon books. That's my books next week.
And I have Ivy, Monkey Prince, Flash, Batman.
Yeah, you've got Ivy, Monkey Prince, so you've got a couple more than I do.
Yeah, but it's the last Monkey Prince, so we're okay.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's number 12. Well, last for now. So.
Okay.
But yeah.
Right.
Also next week, Jeremy Adams has confirmed that 794 of Flash, we're gonna get Irie's new code name finally. So.
Is that next week? Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Okay.
That's next week because he was commenting on how much he loves this cover, of the book that's out. So, and then he goes, also Flash fact, Irie gets her new code name. So, very excited.
Yeah, it's going to be Girl Flash.
I hope not.
I kid. I don't know.
Flash Girl, that would also be
first stupid thing that came in my head. All right, but that'll wrap us up. That'll bring an end to the show. I will thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you very much to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Shaw, Ward Now, Christopher Moy, and David Brown, and also Al Tradesman. I said "and" too early for some reason. So thank you to you all. Thank you to everyone who supports us on Patreon or in any way possible. But you can get early access to the show at the $5 tier whenever it's ready on the Saturday, once it's been edited and uploaded. Naturally, when there's a longer episode, it takes longer to go up. So, but yeah, I mean, if you like the idea of it being there, at least for you on the early Sunday, before the official release, then you can get access to that. But any and all support is appreciated. You can, of course, rate the podcast 5 stars on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from. Share us around, whatever. You can join the Discord, all that stuff. Check out all the other content that we make. I've got multiple movie podcasts over on Male Fuzz Movies YouTube channel, and they're all available as podcast feeds as well. There's a horror movie one called Streams After Midnight. There's a sci-fi one called The Atomic Cinema Experiment, and there's a sort of franchise one called The Collector's Cut, which we were talking about a little bit earlier on in the show. So go and have a look at any and all that stuff. If you want more Connor, he's on the almost cancelled. Actually, we don't really call it that anymore. It's just the Male Fuzz TV news, but you can find that on YouTube, on Male Fuzz TV as well. So yeah, but that is pretty much the show. That'll do us. So we'll see you next week for some more shenanigans. But that is episode 39. No, they're not high up. 346 is what we're on.
There you go.
Yeah, it's like we're getting close to 400, Matt, but not quite. Not quite. Although 350, we're actually sneaking up on a little bit.
Yeah, it's sneaking.
Yeah. But thank you very much for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.